It could be a Barcelona dream for Marcus Rashford. As we understand, the Spanish Giants are eyeing a temporary move for the United forward. But Gabby Agbonlahor thinks it's going to be tough for Rashford to even break into that team.
You've got Yamal on that right-hand side. You could have Nico Williams, who looks like he's going to go through on the left. You could probably have Lewandowski down the middle, and behind him, Rafinha. Look at Aston Villa. He wasn't guaranteed to start. He only played 10 Premier League games. He got 2 goals and 2 assists in them 10 games, but he wasn't guaranteed to start. So Barcelona he definitely won't be.
Liam Delap is off the mark for Chelsea, bagging his first goal in blue against ES Tunis at the Club World Cup. Former Chelsea fullback Scott Minto reckons the new number 9 could help bring out the best from his competition.
He can become that number 1 first of all, then he can have the good season and you know, wrestle his way into the senior squad, and actually he could well make Nicholas Jackson a better player as well, just by that competition.
Meanwhile, Adam Lallana has announced his retirement from football. The midfielder ends his career where it started, at Southampton. After rejoining last season, he won the Champions League and Premier League during his time at Liverpool. Elsewhere, Crystal Palace's place in Europe may have been boosted by Lyon's relegation from the French top flight. It's over financial issues with the club owned by now former Palace shareholder John Textor. Lyon are appealing, and Simon Jordan's questioned the credibility of the sanction.
What we normally see when a club's in absolute disarray is people don't get paid. I'm not hearing that about Lyon. I'm not hearing the players are not being paid and all this sort of stuff. So clearly they're meeting some sort of obligations, because we see it in this country, we see Sheffield Wednesday not paying their wages. We see Reading, we see other people in leagues. And all of a sudden they get sanctioned because they're not able to meet the obligations. And that gives you, these guys have got debt and they seem to be able to pay their way.
And after England roared to a second highest ever run chase against India, Double Ashes winner Steve Harmison says the proactivity of Ben Stokes' side paid off.
India will kick themselves thinking, how on earth have we lost that game with the positions we've been in? And even 350 to get on the last day. There was only one team proactive. There was only one team, I thought, trying to win that game. I thought India were trying to were waiting on mistakes from England.
This is Paul Hawksbee and Andy Jacobs with you through until 4 here on talkSPORT, where this afternoon, Andy, please tell us what's coming up.
I will. Coming up over the next 3 hours, we'll look at Peter Odemwingy's chance of qualifying for the Open.
You weren't expecting that, were you?
No. Cricket writer Dean Wilson joins us in the studio for a look back on an amazing test and a chat about working with the late David Sid Lawrence on his autobiography. And we'll discuss some of the unlikely friendships being forged in the Lions camp.
We're also interested in the sports you're incredibly bad at. Our man in Brazil tells us whether Rodrigo of Real Madrid is really going to be on the market anytime soon, and will the Premier League vultures soon be circling relegated Lyon?
There's all this plus Jeff Thomas talks Palace and Sir Gareth as he gets back on the bike again, and we'll look ahead to a big night for England's under-21s.
Yeah, a bit of live football for you this evening on talkSPORT. Early kick-off. talkSPORT 2, England under-21s versus Netherlands under-21s. Your co-commentator Darren Ambrose will join us for a chat a little bit later on. But it is full 4 minutes past 1. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Andy.
Good afternoon, Paul. Good afternoon, everybody. And of course, I was completely wrong about the test match.
Yeah, but you know,
so were a lot of people.
I was
it's
saying,
funny, isn't it?
You could sit here and say, "Well, you said we were going to get beaten. You said."
No, I did.
But I think you only do it because you care. I actually think you care more about England cricket than you do about Chelsea. You seem to get more annoyed about cricket than you do about...
It's possible.
I don't know, I find it hard to believe. It was an amazing test match. They were
430 for 3.
Yeah.
It did look like a bad decision, but you have to reframe the way you look at test cricket with this England team, because chasing that total was ridiculous. No total seems too big. I know if I was Shubman Gilder and I won the toss, I'd definitely put England in for this. Their method is to chase.
Yeah. Of course, they love to chase. Yeah. That's pretty obvious, isn't it? And they feel like they can get it done.
But a lot of it was about, we'll talk to Dean about this, about the tail. We blew their tail away and ours wagged a bit. And,
yeah. I mean, everybody's calling it, it's sort of Bazball 2.0. It's kind of what everybody was saying. I mean, can you have that? If it's either Bazball or it's not, isn't it? Really?
Well, it was a bit of... There were times where they reined it in the right way. It was good. There's no question about it. But it's going to be a great series. That was a fantastic game of cricket.
It was brilliant.
And I'm fascinated by Manchester United's transfer dealings. They've offered 50 million for Mbeumo, but they think Garnacho they don't want. They think he's worth 70 million.
Right.
I mean, all right, length of contract does come into it, but it's still ridiculous, isn't it? It's absolutely... One bloke's proven goal scorer, experienced player that's going to do something for you. The other one has potential, but hasn't really done much, So,
well, they keep talking about swap deals. What we were saying yesterday, swap deals never work, do they? It's always a lovely idea, but in practicality, they never work. No.
And Boca of Argentina, they couldn't beat Auckland of New Zealand. I think they should have played them at rugby.
Yeah.
They've done better.
Not a bad idea. Yeah.
But the weather in the States now is so extreme. I've been meaning to look up the difference between 94 and now, 30 years later. But my imagination is, I mean, it was very hot then, so I don't know how hot it's going to be. But it's so extreme, the American weather now. And last night they had to come off because of a lightning threat, And I just think the World Cup's going to be a problem. Tired players in the heat and all that stuff. But there we go.
You're calling for full Winter World Cups, aren't you?
Well, I think it's better. It's better. You get better quality, Football.
Yeah, that's the word you were looking for.
Football.
What's that word? It begins with F. 11 against 11.
Still, other matters.
I've got, just very quickly, I've got a new series. It would be a kind of short-lived internet series, possibly, for the top Olympic champion swimmer, Daniel Whiffen.
What's it called?
It's called What's Daniel Whiffen? So you put a blindfold on him.
Yeah, I get the idea.
And you put it under his nose, and he goes, that's camembert, isn't it? So, I mean, I don't know if it's been done, but I mean, it's got
worse progress.
It's got limited appeal. But I'm just thinking, how's he putting that? Hi there, it's you don't know me, I'm Paul Hawksbee. You're Daniel Whiffen's agent, aren't you? Got this idea for a series. Could be telly, could be internet, could be what's Daniel Whiffen? Put it on blindfold. Hello. Oh, I think the line's gone dead.
It's marvellous, isn't
it? Well, if you know Daniel, just tell him I mentioned it. And I look forward to working with him. Sorry, Andy, where did you want to go next?
No, I've just got a few non-sporting things that caught my eye. Amanda Holden.
Oh, yeah, she caught your eye,
54. She says...
She like Wretch 3 too.
Very much.
Amanda Holden, 54.
I would encourage anyone at home to strip off and have a cheeky bounce on the trampoline.
Oh, yeah.
She's fine if you look like Amanda Holden, less fine if you look like me. Thanks.
The last thing I want to see, Andy, and
me.
Get out, as the landlord would say. I've now got a mental image of you naked having a cheeky bounce on a trampoline.
No, thanks. Doesn't look like a good idea to me.
Yeah. I mean, when the kids had a trampoline in the garden when they were younger, I mean, I didn't strip off, but now and again I would go and have a little bit of a cheeky
It's very
bounce.
good exercise, that's the thing.
Yeah.
But, what else have I got here? No, yes. Brian Linford's back.
Oh, okay. You're the bloke who writes in capital letters and shouts, yeah.
Do you remember the editor pointed out that he'd been away?
I wonder where he's been. All the money he makes from the Star for writing letters.
Oh, actually, before that, I saw a letter in the Sun this morning.
Oh, yeah.
From our old... Do you remember Navdeep Rahill?
I remember Navdeep, yeah.
Navdeep was a serial applier to managers' jobs.
Yeah, I think he used to like getting the letters back. He'd apply for every manager's job that was going out there, and he came in one day, years ago, with his folder of job...
I know. And he applied for the England job.
He did. Oh, did he?
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
he got. I think, did he ever get? He got close to an interview. I don't think he ever actually got an interview.
He got some nice letters back saying.
He did. They're all. Yeah. I mean, some clubs never
thanks
wrote
for your
back.
interest.
I don't think Daniel Levy wrote back, but one or two others did.
He was cheap. He took him on.
Yeah, he probably did. Yeah.
Anyway, Navdeep says it's wonderful that Prince William is planning on roaring on the Lionesses at next month's Euros in Switzerland.
Maybe he's going to apply for that job.
Serena Wiegman. I think I said it wrong. He's a true footy fan. Hopefully, future generations of Royals will follow his example. Well done, Navdeep.
Well done, Navdeep. And more breaking news from a Chelsea point of view. Wayne Bridge is very happy with his hair transplant. Have you seen that?
Yes, I heard that he was having it.
In true footballer fashion, he said of the £7,000 due, I'm buzzing. He said, I'm buzzing.
Buzzing, good.
Yeah, he's had, I'll give you, we've played Watch Daniel Whiffing. Now let's have a game of Have Another Guess. The former Manchester City and Chelsea fullback, 44, had how many hairs implanted in September last year? How many hairs did he have implanted?
Something like 454. It was a really odd number.
You're well out, Andy. Have another guess.
745.
No, you're going to go higher.
2,312.
I'll give you one more guess. You're going to go higher.
5,406.
I tell you what, let's inflict this on the listeners.
Oh, for goodness sake.
Don't look it up. No Googling. How many hairs has Wayne... And Wayne, you can't phone up. It's not fair. How many hairs has Wayne Bridge had implanted in his hair for his new hair transplant? talksport.com, text 889, tweet TS. We won't do it for the whole 3 hours, don't worry. We'll get it out of the way quickly. Text
people will Google it and then go like 3 less. That's no point doing that.
Okay, Andy, don't you come? You've got a bit more faith in the audience, for goodness sake. Bit more faith. So, the other thing you get going on today, sports you're incredibly bad at. This is a story today. I mean, look, let's be honest. It's a bit of publicity for the place. I don't think they're serious. It says the hunt is on for Britain's worst mini golf player.
Yes, I don't know how they work that out, really.
Well, you can win free games for life at Wicksteed Park in Kettering in Northants. So well done at the marketing department, who I'm guessing is probably one bloke or woman at the Wicksteed Park.
Yeah.
A mini golf
Wicksteed.
It says Wicksteed here.
Is it?
Yeah, Wicksteed. With 2 E's in Kettering, Northants. So,
Wicksteed,
I mean, really, if you want to go along and you could be quite a mini golf player, but you just deliberately start firing it round the other holes.
Like playing a drive.
Yeah. Playing a real full body drive off the tee. But anyway, they're offering that. But we'd love to know about those sports you maybe tried and were really bad at. The one that came to mind for me was pole vault. I mean, when we were first went to sort of big school, we tried sports we'd not tried before. Hammer, discus. I wasn't terrible at those. It wasn't great after a bit of work on the hammer, but the pole vault wasn't for me, really. As I said, we used to do them with a scaffold pole, basically. It didn't bend, so that sorted the men from the boys. But I realised at that moment I was never going to be a pole vaulter. So if there is a sport you really stink the place out at, and in what circumstances did you discover it? Do let us know this afternoon. talksport.com, text 889, tweet to TSH&J. Well, Andy, this time next week, we'll be looking ahead to the start of the Women's European Championship, because it gets underway next Wednesday. And we have high hopes for the England Lionesses, of course, and indeed for Wales, who are out there for this one. So we'll be chatting very shortly to Natasha Dowie, former England and Liverpool striker, who's going to be part of our top team, I'll reveal, who's going to be out there bringing you the tournament. We'll have lots of live commentaries, all the closing stages, all the women's games with England and Wales, so you won't miss a thing. And we're going to talk a bit of Lions. One of the interesting little byproducts of these Lions tours is friendships are forged between unlikely people. And one of the players has been saying today that I never thought I'd like this fella, but we're getting on. We'll reveal all of that with Andrew McKenna, who's going to be part of our team out in Australia.
That's happened quite a lot in football, that you fall out with a player and then he joins your club. That's got to happen. Even
one of these guys have gone, these guys have gone head to head. They find themselves in a Lions environment. I wonder then if it changes the dynamic when they play against them for club and for country, when they've been mates at Lions.
Yeah, because they're talking about that in the cricket, because all these players play in the IPL and other franchises.
Well, you noticed that, didn't you? Like who was it who put a great shot? It was another reverse from Duckett, and Pant came up to him and sort of gave him a pat on the back and stuff. You don't often get that, do you?
No. He's fun to watch, Ben.
Yeah, he certainly is. Anyway, we'll look ahead to the Euros very shortly. We're also going to be talking about Peter Odemwingie. You know Peter Odemwingie, of course. Fine footballer, but a good golfer. Came to the game quite late, but is now very good and he's eyeing a bit of open qualifying.
Did he drive to the clubhouse?
He drove to the clubhouse and waited outside to see if he could get open qualifying. Ollie Fischer, who teaches many an ex-pro footballer, including their own Jamie O'Hara, the beautiful game. So we'll be chatting to Ollie a bit later on as well about Peter's chances of open qualifying. Remember years ago on the show we had John Conte's lad who was going for open qualifying and almost got in, didn't he? The fine boxer, of course. Yeah. Anyway, we'll look at the transfer market, and Dean Wilson will be with us in the studio to chat about that test yesterday and what we learned from it, and also to talk about the life of David Sid Lawrence, who died at the weekend, the former England bowler. It's an amazing book, amazing story, and we'll be chatting to Dean a little bit later on. But we kick off with women's football. Natasha Dowie joining us for a chat ahead of the Women's Euros. We're here with our very good friends at Toolstation. Next stop, Toolstation. Good afternoon, Paul Hawksbee, Andy Jacobs here on talkSPORT, and we are, as we said, just before the break there, we're just 1 week away from the start of the Women's Euros over in Switzerland, and talkSPORT, as always, has got you covered.
And the European Championships get underway. Right-footed drive, hits the post, comes off the goalkeeper, and in! Spectacular hit from Diani.
Cuts back onto her right foot and finds the net. Vivian Miedema.
An opportunity to round the goalkeeper, and it's in from Bob Marty.
Hooks up the cross, and the header is in from Harder.
Into the penalty area. Gonzalez with the shot, past the goalkeeper and in. A lovely move by Spain.
His ball has fallen for Hegerberg in the penalty area. Plays it square. Frida Marnham taps it in. 2 goals in quick succession for Norway.
And Eva Pyle there to gleefully tap home from inside the 6-yard box. Rising Katerin from the angle with the shot, and it flashes into the back of the net.
Opportunity for Russo inside the penalty area. Finds the corner. Alessia Russo for England.
Yes, the Lionesses will be looking to retain their crown after lifting the trophy memorably back in 2022. talkSPORT bringing you all the action from the England and Wales games, plus the opening match, both semi-finals and the final. Our team will include Adrian Durham, massive advocate of women's football, big fan of the Lionesses, Joe Shannon, Courtney Sweetman Kirk will also be joined by Jordan Nobbs, Leanne Sanderson, Rhiannon Skinner, and joining us now, former England and Liverpool striker, Natasha Dowie. Good afternoon, Tasha.
Good afternoon, guys. How are we?
Yeah, I think we're all very much looking forward to it. Only a week away now. How are you feeling about, let's start with the Lionesses' chances, because it has been not the greatest build-up, really, with some of those high-profile sort of injuries and retirements.
Yeah, no, I think you're spot on. There's some massive characters missing, especially Millie Bright, in my opinion. I think she's a huge leader. A captain. I think probably out of all of the ones missing, she will be the key player. But I also think when you look at the players coming back in, players finding form, Lauren James back involved, England will be there or thereabouts. Probably going into the tournament, Spain are favourites. But then when you're talking about who's going to be competing with Spain, England is definitely the nation.
Expectations are much higher now, though, aren't they? Do you think that may play into it?
Yeah, but I think, I think that's the great thing. When I played for England, probably you're talking 7-8 years ago now, we would enter tournaments, but you would never be talking about us reaching finals. This England team now have reached, I think, 3 major finals back to back. They're holders of the European Championships. They made the World Cup last year, narrowly losing. So this is a team now that every tournament they enter, they're expected to win, or they're there or thereabouts, going to be in the knockout stages. So I think this group of girls playing at club level, winning Champions Leagues. Some of these players have won the treble at Chelsea. They're used to these high pressure games, tournaments. So for them, they're not going to be phased. This is just another tournament. And if anything, I think a lot of the speculation, I think a lot of the talk off the pitch will make them even hungrier to kind of try and prove people wrong.
We've had a bit of focus on Lauren James because she's not played since April, and there's a bit of taking a bit of a punt. But Sophie Ingle made the Wales squad, and she didn't play at all last season for Chelsea. She's had an ACL, but it looks like she's kind of got back to fitness. I mean, she's an important player for Wales, isn't she? Yeah,
she's massive. She's such a key player, and it's harder, and with no disrespect to Wales, probably they don't have as big a pool of players to pick from as England do. So I think when you're looking at the squad of players that Rhiannon Skinner had to pick from, I think with regards to Ingle, I think she's one that you had to take because of her experience, her leadership in and around the team. And I think, if they can progress, she is someone that has so much experience. She can see out a game, that kind of holding mid-role. They've missed her massively. So I think they've taken her more for being in and around the group. And then hopefully they can get her the minutes she needs, to obviously progress later on in the tournament.
Who do you think are the main rivals for England and Wales? It's Spain, obviously, but anybody else to really keep an eye on?
Yeah, absolutely. I think when you look at the likes of Germany are going to be there or thereabouts. I think Sweden are a team that are always in the knockout groups. They've got some really strong players. France, for me as well, are one of those nations that when you look at them individually, they have such a strong squad, and they've actually left out some really key players, the likes of Wendy Renard, Les Sommer. I think for me, they're some of the biggest names in women's football that the managers decided to leave out. So whether or not that goes in favour for them or not, we talked about our group being the group of death. So really, whoever progresses out of that, I think, has a real good chance. And I think when you look at the groups as well, I think Group A is quite an even group. Spain will dominate Group B, in my opinion. And I think when you look at Group C, I think Germany and Sweden will progress. And then it's a case of France, us or the Netherlands, who's going to be the big team to miss out there.
Who are the kind of emerging nations? We know that the Swedish have always been good and Germany have been good. I mean, let's start looking at some other teams like sort of Finland and Denmark or whatever. What can we expect from them?
Yeah, no, I would say keep a lookout absolutely for Italy, for the likes of Italy. I played in Italy for AC Milan, and I think it's a country that is absolutely progressing. I think the kind of Romas, the AC Milans, Juventus have been teams that have really progressed in Champions League football as well, which I think has helped the Italian league. And also for me, Portugal. I think they are a nation that, again, Benfica is a really strong women's team in the Portuguese league who have done well in Champions League also. I think they're a nation as well that could cause some upsets.
The Opta supercomputer's been looking at it. Apparently, Spain have got a 25% chance of winning it. They're favourites. England have got 17% chance, and Wales have got 0 chance.
Thanks very much.
So that's one for Rhian Wilkinson to pin on the dressing room wall, I would think.
I just wonder that Arsenal beating Barcelona in the Champions League final, whether that will give England a bit more confidence.
It absolutely will. It will. And I think with confidence, with winning, breeds that. And just going back to Wales as well with Rhian Wilkinson, I've been so impressed with her since she's come in. My partner's a scout for the Wales national team. So I've kind of had a bit more of an insight of what's been going on behind the scenes there. And I love the way that she speaks. I think she's actually got a degree in communication. And the way that she talks, she has this belief within this squad. And she says, no one fancies them. But tell you what, within the camp, that is a different story. They have full belief. And I think when I talk to the likes of Ian Rush at Liverpool, I think what stands out for me with the Wales national team is the togetherness, you know, that kind of underdog mentality. So without being disrespectful, I talked about England, the Netherlands and France. I think everyone would love to see, you know, a kind of underdog factor in Wales to somehow cause an upset there. And they have got the players. Jess Fishlock, she's someone that I'm so glad has made a senior majors tournament. She's a player that I played against for many years. And for me, we talk about this world-class player and it's used too often. But Jess Fishlock is world-class and she deserves to have this moment.
You find home internationals in tournaments, we saw it when the men played Wales, you know, it's a tough game, isn't it? Because everybody raises their game. There's always a little bit of edge because often the players know each other. So it doesn't kind of help either nation really when you've got a bit of a sort of domestic dust-up going on.
No, and I love it as well. I think I've seen things on social media already. I think there might have been an incident in a supermarket store in Wales where they were promoting Lucozade drinks for the England women's team. And I think there was a massive bust-up and basically they were saying, why is this being promoted in a supermarket in Wales? So I think straight away that just shows this kind of competitiveness and this edge that's going to happen. And this is my first major tournament as well, you know, obviously not playing, but being a commentator. So for me as well, having my debut tournament, I just cannot wait to be able to be there live and to watch these matchups.
Excellent. Okay, Tasha, we'll chat to you during the tournament. Good to talk to you. Thanks very much.
Thanks, guys.
Natasha Dowie there, former England and Liverpool striker, still involved at Liverpool, said she was chatting to Ian Rush recently. She'll be bringing commentaries to us along with our top team I outlined a little bit earlier on. And yeah, we look forward to bringing you the best of the Women's Euros. It gets underway next Wednesday. It's Paul Hawksbee and Andy Jacobs here on talkSPORT off the back of a mini golf course offering free golf to the very worst player they can find. And we're interested in the sports you're really terrible at. I had a bit of a mishap practicing for the discus. My poor old mum, she loved that robot vacuum cleaner, says Alex in Walthamstow. Maybe having us on there, quite possibly.
Any guesses on Wayne's?
Well, we have many guesses. I think people have got better things to do with their time. Yeah, no one's had a guess of how many hairs Wayne Bridge had implanted last September to give him the full head of hair that has got him buzzing. Somebody did say, has he gone for a beehive? Is that what it is? Anyway, well, you can keep guessing. Shall I just tell you? Should we put them out of their misery?
Go on, put them out.
No, I'll tell you what.
I want to know.
Don't touch that dial. That's what we call a tease in what Rodney Marsh used to call Radioland. Stick around to find out just how many hairs Wayne Bridge had implanted last September to give him a beautiful look. That's coming up the other side of the news.
It could be a Barcelona dream for Marcus Rashford. As we understand, the Spanish Giants are eyeing a temporary move for the United forward. But Gabby Agbonlahor thinks it's going to be tough for Rashford to even break into that team.
You've got Yamal on that right-hand side. You could have Nico Williams, who looks like he's going to go through on the left. You could probably have Lewandowski down the middle, and behind him Rafinha. Look at Aston Villa. He wasn't guaranteed to start. He only played 10 Premier League games. He got 2 goals and 2 assists in them 10 games, but he wasn't guaranteed to start. So Barcelona, he definitely won't be.
Liam Delap is off the mark for Chelsea, bagging his first goal in blue against ES Tunis at the Club World Cup. Former Chelsea fullback Scott Minto reckons the new number 9 could help bring out the best from his competition.
He can become that number 1 first of all, then he can have the good season and wrestle his way into the senior squad, and actually he could well make Nicholas Jackson a better player as well, just by that competition.
And after England roared to a second highest ever run chase against India, Double Ashes winner Steve Harmison says the proactivity of Ben Stokes' side paid off.
India will kick themselves thinking, how on earth have we lost that game with the positions we've been in? And even 350 to get on the last day. There was only one team proactive. There was only one team, I thought, trying to win that game. I thought India were trying to we're waiting on mistakes from England.
Good afternoon, Paul Hawksbee and Andy Jacobs here on talkSPORT. Well, the burning question so far this afternoon is just how many hairs did the former Manchester City and Chelsea fullback Wayne Bridge have implanted last September to give him the hair transplant, which he says he's now buzzing about? Well, a few of you have had a go. 7,326. Not even close. 4,100. That's very good work. Whoever sent that one in. So here we are. I promised I wouldn't eke it out any longer. The amount of hairs that former Man City and Chelsea fullback, 44, Wayne Bridge. No, it wasn't 44, that's his age. Oh, that'd be really, hardly worth doing,
like
is
me
it?
If he had 44.
Cost him $7,000. What's the point of having 44 hairs? The number was, here we go, 4,085. That's very specific. Not 4,086.
No, I knew it was a specific number. I did read it, but
wouldn't have worked. But 4,085 was just right for Wayne to get the full head of hair.
What's the point?
Never mind. Well, you've thought about doing it, haven't you?
No.
I can see you in
absolutely
Turkey
not.
for a couple of weeks.
No chance.
No? Big bandage round your head.
I'm thinning and proud. I am. I would never do.
Anyway, on that, we'll turn to the Lions. And, there are a few interesting stories emerging from the Lions camp ahead of the warm-up games. Dan Sheehan has been saying that he never expected to get on with Ellis Genge. He always thought he struck him as someone who would be a bit of a, D-head. It's the only way of putting it. And he said, now there we are, hanging out together, sharing a coffee, we're getting on well. Andrew McKenna is going to be part of our top team, of course, bringing you the British and Irish Lions tour of Australia. He joins us now. Hi, Macca.
Good afternoon, legends. There'd be no point AJ getting a hair transplant because he'd just tear it out again in 5 minutes. So that would literally be a what's the point?
As soon as England won the toss and bowled, he'd be pulling it. All 4,085 hairs would come out in 5 minutes, despite what they can do. It's an interesting. I'm sure it's a very common thing in the Lions. We've had all this thing with Finn Russell and Johnny Sexton, but that's slightly different. This is guys who probably only kind of do combat for their countries and for their clubs. And then they kind of get together and think, you know what? I didn't think I'd like him, but I do.
Well, do you know what? It's that thing of, he might be a D-head, but now he's your D-head. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of, it's different. Well, it's like that, your club signs that player who's been a pain in the backside for the last 5 years, but then when they're on your side, it just changes it. And that is the beauty of the Lions. And arguably, that is the biggest thing that Andy Farrell and his staff have to do over the course of a few weeks, is to bring a disparate group together, guys who are used to trying to knock lumps out of each other and actually get them on the same page. Now, one of the ways you can do that is by the fact they share rooms. So in Portugal, and building up to that first game against Argentina, Maro Itoje and Tyke Byrne were sharing a room. Now, England and Ireland, but also playing the same position. They were going to be pretty much nailed on to play that game together. So they actually formed that bond for longer than a couple of days worth of training. They actually got them to room together. So they roomed the props together, the flankers together, centre pairings. Bundyaki was there with Sione Tuipulotu ahead of that first game. So it's all those little things that you can do to actually build up those relationships.
Wow.
I'm going to play you something, actually. This was Pierre Schumann, the Lions prop. He was chatting to Alfie Reynolds out in Australia. You're heading out there shortly, Macca, ahead of the Western Force game on Saturday. And Schumann was talking about the recent criticism from the great David Campese of the Lions skipper Maro Itoje. This is what he had to say.
He's probably one of those guys that you respected, playing against him, but it went even through the roof, breaking glass ceilings of the reality of how great leader he is. He's just in a class of his own, and I love spending time with him. I know everyone does. I can't speak highly enough of him. He's a great leader, and it really rubs off on everyone. He's not afraid to say what needs to be said, but also he leads well. He doesn't even, just have words and don't fulfill or live up to those expectations or words. He actually is living proof of that day in, day out, and that's on the pitch, but also outside of the pitch. He's a real test lion captain demeanour, and he's a standout captain in my view, in my opinion.
There we are.
Are there any Lions players without South African accents? Sorry.
Plenty of them. You're probably thinking, what bit of Scotland does that come from, that accent? But, what was Cambo's issue then with Maro Itoje?
So he basically said in a column that he writes for a rugby website that Maro didn't really inspire the Lions, didn't look like a captain, didn't do this, didn't do that. It was typical Campo stuff. And I say that as Campo is a friend. We worked together on the 2013 Lions and on the 2011 Rugby World Cup in New Zealand. Campo is not afraid to throw a few hand grenades, to get involved, to stir things up. I don't buy it, what he's saying at all. Maro is Maro. He is used to leading at Saracens. Look at the trophies that they've won in recent years. He's used to leading with England, even when he's not been the official captain. And leading the Lions as captain is different. Because if you think about it, there's about 4 or 5 guys who've all captained captained their national teams, there's probably 6 or 7 more who've captained their club or their province. It's a different kind of thing. And actually, we spoke to Maro about that leading up to the game. And he was like, you don't need to do all of the things here that you do elsewhere, because this is the best of the best. So, if you're expecting Maro to be beating the drum on the side of the pitch going rah, 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 you probably don't need to, because do you know what? These players are all so good, they know that already. So it's actually a different kind of captaincy for the Lions on this one. Yes, he came off with, 10 minutes or so to play with the game in the balance, but it's not about the Argentina game. It's about being ready for the first test in Brisbane in 3-4 weeks' time. That's what the end goal is. 10 minutes, 15 minutes here or there now is absolutely neither here nor there.
Yeah. One of the other arguments that always was come up in recent years, because they have fewer warm-up games these days, the shorter tours, are the players being released to play in the warm-up games, making sure there's good competition in the warm-up games and a decent opposition. And then Joe Schmidt's been sort of arguing...
They've changed the rules, and they've got to do this.
Well, according to Ben Calverley, who we chatted to at the squad announcement, the chief exec, he said there was an agreement in place. Joe Schmidt, the coach, is saying, well, it's counterproductive for me to do that. So, look, boys are being released, maybe not in the numbers people would like, but we're seeing some players being added to these warm-up game squads, aren't we, Macca?
So I don't think the Lions want every player to be released back to the game. What they want is a decent opposition.
Yeah.
Let's take the Western Force, for example, okay? Lions playing them on Saturday. They've not played a game for a month because they didn't qualify for the playoffs in Super Rugby. So therefore, they've not played for a month, and they've got 9 players going into the Wallaby squad for their game against Fiji. That is the Wallabies' only warm-up game ahead of the Lions test. You put those things together, you would think Joe Schmidt would want his players playing against the Lions to actually get some game time, get them back up to speed. So what they've done is they've released 5 of the Force players back to play this weekend, and 4 will stay with the Wallabies. Now, what I'm trying to find out is the Lions then play the Queensland Reds, who are one of the significant powerhouses of Australian rugby, on Wednesday. I'm trying to find out how many Reds players will be released back to play for them. Because, again, we are still quite a long way out from that Fiji game and miles out from the Test match. I would hope it will be a few. I don't know yet. But this is why that tour agreement document is so important for the Lions, because it gets it down in paper. If anyone who's bought or sold a house in the last 2 or 3 years will know, you have to list all of the things that you're leaving, all of the things that you're taking in every single room. It's just so ridiculous. It goes into minute detail. But if it's down there on paper that there is an agreement that this will happen, then you are bound by it. Both parties have signed it, and therefore Joe Schmidt shouldn't be moaning at the Lions. He should be moaning at his chief executive, Phil Waugh, because Phil Waugh has known that this is the case for a very long time. Just like, by the way, when Phil Waugh came out recently, it was talking about extra time if it's 1-1 going into the final test. He'd known that that was a non-starter, because it's in this agreement, and it's been in this agreement for over a year, that a draw is a draw. So that's why we have this document.
Bit of an edge to Macca there. I think that when he moved in, he said to me, "Are you keeping those custom-made blinds for those windows?" They said, "No, we're taking those with us." So are the windows at the new place all the same? No, they're not. Well, that's just spiteful, isn't it? Anyway, Macca, we'll catch up with you soon. Thanks very much.
All the best, boys.
So British and Irish Lions take on the Western Force this Saturday, live and exclusively on talkSPORT, with coverage starting from 10 a.m. Whilst every day this week over on talkSPORT 2 you can hear Lions Uncaged, which is a bit of a worrying concept, as we bring you everything you need to know from the Lions camp, including exclusive interviews, breaking news, some of the best behind-the-scenes stories that you won't be able to hear anywhere else. We heard from Pierre Schumann a little bit earlier on. There's lots of good content, lots more stuff coming out of the camp. And don't forget, we'll be bringing you all live commentaries, all 3 test matches, plus the warm-up games. And talkSPORT is the only place on national radio where you can follow all of the Lions action. Well, Peter Odemwingie, apparently, former pro footballer and quite infamous cult character from the world of football for reasons we'll go into in a moment if you don't know them, tried to qualify for the Open. I think it has happened, we've been told. He didn't qualify. But still, for a man that didn't take up the game until very late in life, that's still pretty decent. Ollie Fischer is a pro golfer and a teacher and has taught a number of footballers over the years, including their own Jamie O'Hara. And we'll talk to him about why it may be that people like footballers and people in sports can switch sports and still be pretty good. Is there something innate in them? I don't know. We'll find out from Ollie very shortly. We're here with our very good friends at Tool Station. Stay one step ahead, whatever the job. Next stop, Tool Station. Hawksbee Jacobs here on talkSPORT. Now, if you listen to the show, you know myself and Andy and people associated with the show like to play lookalike cricket. It's a very simple game. You see someone could be in the world of sport, showbiz or beyond, that looks very much like someone famous, and then you'll put it out on a group, a WhatsApp group, or
you have to get that's part of the rules. You have to get a photo of them.
You have to get a photo of them
surreptitiously.
I had a sensational one the other day, but there was no way of doing it without being probably beaten up. Because in the end, I mean, it's quite hard to you have
to have somebody with you, so you make out you're taking their photo, but you take the.
I can't remember even what it was now. I should have anyway. I didn't do it, but thankfully, a talkSPORT listener. Will Hall, he's at uni in Manchester. Good afternoon, Will. I think he's listening this afternoon. He was in Rhodes with some mates and encountered, I would say, probably the greatest Pep lookalike. And this guy could make a living.
Honestly, Susan's got lookalikes.
He's even got the mannerisms. I don't know much money.
Everything about him, he is just Pep. I've never seen a lookalike like this.
I don't know how much money you make as a Rhodes taxi driver, but a bit of little Pep lookalike work on the side wouldn't go. Look, we're going to put, if you're watching on Connect TV or on YouTube, you'll see this now. We're going to put it on the H&J Twitter feed at TSH&J, TSHANDJ. It'll be up very shortly. This is a 6. This is Jamie Smith's 6 to finish off the Test match yesterday. I mean, this is a sensation. Tell me this isn't a brilliant Pep lookalike. Here we go.
We've got Guardiola. We've got Guardiola.
Yeah. He probably does get it a lot.
Yeah, just a touch.
If there's that many British tourists here. But well done, Will. That is a 6. Straight back over the bowler's head. Anyway, at TSH&J if you want to check it out. I'm sure it'll be on all the talkSPORT socials. But anyway, we turn to golf now. Well, kind of. Peter Odom-Wingy, apparently, the fine footballer, after packing up the game, took to golf seriously. He didn't.
Julian Dix tried this as well, didn't he?
Yes, he did. But I mean, it seems Peter started playing the game quite late in life. I think there were suggestions that he only really took up the sport seriously in his 30s. And now Ollie Fischer is a golfer, and he's also a teacher, and he teaches a lot of footballers. So we wondered if, I mean, because Jimmy Bullard tried open qualifying, he didn't quite make it. I saw, was it Peter Trago, the old Somerset player?
Yeah.
He gave it a go as well, didn't quite make it. But as we said, John Conte's son all those years ago, Julian Dix. Ollie Fischer joins us now. Hi, Ollie.
Afternoon, gents. How you doing?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. I mean, it is pretty impressive to take up a sport that late. I remember when I worked at Chelsea years ago, a few of the players then were saying they'd got Franco Zola playing golf and he'd not really played much before. But as soon as he started to play, he had this natural hand-eye coordination. Was obviously competitive, athletic, and all that kind of gave him an advantage over somebody else kind of almost starting from scratch.
Yeah, I think, for these footballers, not necessary now that they get as much spare time as they used to back in the day, but golf's a great game for them to kind of get a head away, to get a bit of privacy. They can use some of the processes that they use in sport and what they do in their day job. And, it seems with Peter Odom-Wingy, he's taken it up, he's loved it, much like Jamie O'Hara, much like Gareth Bale and Andrei Shevchenko, that have all, Jimmy Bullard as well, all great players. Footballers especially, but obviously turn themselves into pretty good golfers too. And for Peter to go and do his PGA, and obviously shows a love for the sport that he's got for golf too.
It's one thing being a scratch player, though, but it's hard, isn't it? I mean, a lot of these players have been playing since they were kids, and I'd imagine it's quite difficult to make that transition from football to actually getting into a big tournament.
Yeah, I don't think they'd be putting me on the back row of as a centre back for Man United. I'm not sure which division I'd play coming from golf to football. But listen, any sport, having played it at a good level and then trying to compete with the pros, you're going into the guys that have played it. Most of us have played since we were kids, and then I played the tour for 17 years, and grew up with Rory and Shane and playing with all these players, Ernie Els, and fortunate to play with some of the greats of the game. And there are levels, but golf's a great sport. You can play for. We all have handicaps. You can play with anyone. If you go for a game of tennis, it's, one-on-one, or you play doubles. But if the guys are really, really good, or girls, you can't get the ball back. With golf, you can all play your own ball. You can all have your own handicap. And it's a fantastic sport for it. Like, there is no other sport that gives you.
Have you seen a footballer and that made you think, that you've worked with maybe or coached and thought, if he started this, if he did this instead of football, he would have had a chance?
Well, I mean, the obvious one for me, I play a little bit of golf with Gareth Bale, and you watch Gareth strike a golf ball, and he's as good as any pro. Staying there off a tee, ripping a driver at 185 miles an hour ball speed, and in perfect kind of balance, and his technique looks fantastic. But the little bit of creativity that you see with him on the football pitch, he doesn't quite have for the the feel of it around when it gets out of position from time to time. Like you see him take a ball over his shoulder and control it on his foot and suddenly run at it with pace. Them things that people have picked up instinctively through the years of doing that one sport. I think it's always a tough part to get right. But to go and play as a scratch player or a +2 handicapper, you can do that in golf for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing, isn't it? I mean, he was talking about turning pro, Gareth Bale. Maybe he wasn't. There was all these stories that he was thinking of turning
Mourinho was funny about it in an interview recently. They were together, and he's sort of winding him up about being more interested in golf than playing football. I think that may have been true.
Yeah, but I mean, even then, someone who's that good, he isn't quite good enough, Ollie, is he?
You got me there.
Oh yeah, I'm just saying he's still not quite good enough to hack it with the top guys or to make it on the circuit.
No, I think, listen, golf, any top sport, when you look at how good these guys are at the top, the appreciation that you've got for that as a sportsman when they're playing in Champions League finals compared to all the Masters, all the British Open. And, we just watched Tommy Fleetwood play on the weekend over in America. He's come so close so many times, but to compete at the highest level and win, you've got to be so good. And to do that week in, week out, you watch the Premier League week in, the standard every match is just improving over year on year. And it's the same with golf and competing as a professional at golf. You can't just pick something up and suddenly think, I'm going to hack it at this 30 weeks a year and suddenly compete and earn a living at it. There's few and far between of sportsmen that we know that can make a living at their individual sport, let alone cross over and suddenly go at it at the big time. But to be able to be at a level where you can go and coach like Peter's doing, he's playing open qualifying. That's the great thing about the British Open. It's open to anyone that's a professional that can go, or a handicap that's legitimate, and they're off their scratch. They can enter and go in through local qualifying and potentially have a chance of playing the British Open, which is in people's dreams,
And finally and briefly, you've been giving some lessons to Jamie O'Hara, our sports bar co-host. Could he be a contender? Will we see him at the Open anytime soon?
Well, I've never given Jamie. I've played with Jamie a few times. Right. I've been on a sports bar from time to time with Jamie and Cundy. But Jamie is a keen player, and I know he plays a lot, and he's good. I think if he can just kind of control his overswing, he's got to lose a little bit of control at the top. I don't know if it's kind of a bit from his crossover from his football career, he's going into his golf career, but he's got all the confidence he needs, that is for sure. Yeah,
he did it a few over the bar when I watched him at Spurs, so that may be it. Yeah, it's an overswing.
Over the green.
Still no different. Yeah, brilliant. Good to talk to you, Ollie. Thanks very much.
Cheers, gents. Have a good afternoon.
There we are, pro golfer. And he's played with a few of the stars and coached a few as well, Ollie Fischer there. So there we are. Those sports you're really quite terrible at, we're interested in how and why you discovered that. talksport.com/H&J, text to 81089 or tweet to TSH&J. We're talking transfers very, very shortly. And Dean Wilson will be with us in the studio. Dean has worked with the late David Sid Lawrence on his autobiography. We lost Sid at the weekend, very sadly, to motor neuron disease. Some of the proceeds of the book are going to MND research, and we'll be looking back on Sid's life and, of course, reflecting on that incredible test match yesterday with cricket journalist and author Dean Wilson in the next hour.
It could be a Barcelona dream for Marcus Rashford. As we understand, the Spanish Giants are eyeing a temporary move for the United forward. But Gabby Agbonlahor thinks it's going to be tough for Rashford to even break into that team.
You've got Yamal on that right-hand side. You could have Nico Williams, who that guy looks like he's going to go through on the left. You could probably have Lewandowski down the middle, and behind him Rafinha. Look at Aston Villa. He wasn't guaranteed to start. He only played 10 Premier League games. He got 2 goals and 2 assists in them 10 games, but he wasn't guaranteed to start. So Barcelona, he definitely won't be.
Liam Delap is off the mark for Chelsea, bagging his first goal in blue against ES Tunis at the Club World Cup. Former Chelsea fullback Scott Minto reckons the new number 9 could help bring out the best from his competition.
He can become that number 1 first of all, then he can have the good season and you know, wrestle his way into the senior squad, and actually he could well make Nicholas Jackson a better player as well, just by that competition.
Meanwhile, Adam Lallana has announced his retirement from football. The midfielder ends his career where it started, at Southampton. After rejoining last season, he won the Champions League and Premier League during his time at Liverpool. Elsewhere, Crystal Palace's place in Europe may have been boosted by Lyon's relegation from the French top flight. It's over financial issues with the club owned by now former Palace shareholder John Textor. Lyon are appealing, and Simon Jordan's questioned the credibility of the sanction.
What we normally see when a club's in absolute disarray is people don't get paid. I'm not hearing that about Lyon. I'm not hearing the players are not being paid and all this sort of stuff. So clearly they're meeting some sort of obligations, because we sit in this country, we see Sheffield Wednesday not paying their wages. We see Reading, we see other people in
That's
leagues,
a fair point.
and all of a sudden they get sanctioned because they're not able to meet their obligations. And that gives you, these guys have got debt, and they seem to be able to pay their way.
And after England roared to a second highest ever run chase against India, Double Ashes winner Steve Harmison says the proactivity of Ben Stokes' side paid off.
India will kick themselves thinking, how on earth have we lost that game with the positions we've been in? And even 350 to get on the last day. There was only one team proactive. There was only one team, I thought, trying to win that game. I thought India were trying to were waiting on mistakes from England.
Good afternoon, Paul Hawksbee and Andy Jacobs. Just to let you know, at TSH&J, TSHANDJ on Twitter, we have put up that quite incredible Rhodes taxi driver Pep Guardiola lookalike. Fly him over to the States quickly and get them together. Thanks to Will Hall, the talkSPORT listener, who sent that in. But it's at TSH&J if you want to check it out. We're talking transfers with Ollie Clink. Alex Crook, our chief football correspondent, currently on holiday. Videos emerging of him doing water aerobics today. So he's, as they say, he's living the dream currently.
I'm not sure I'd have filmed that and put it out myself, but there you go.
I think it may have been done surreptitiously. And Dean Wilson joins us to chat about collaborating with the late David Sid Lawrence on his autobiography in Sid's voice, and of course talking about Bazball 2.0, that fine win for England against India in the first test yesterday at Headingley. So, beyond that, Andy, anything else you want to discuss with the class?
Yes, I don't know if you saw the bloke who was banned from entering Dubai because he had a tattooed face. Did you see this bloke?
I didn't see him, no.
Anyway, somebody's written to the Star about it, said, one rule for the wealthy and one rule for the ordinary man or woman in the street. The guy blocked from entering Dubai because of his tattooed face.
Have they let Mike Tyson in at any point? He's got a tattooed face.
Didn't apply to David Beckham, who has a very expensive apartment in Dubai.
He hasn't got a tattooed face, has he?
No, that's exactly it.
He's got a kind of tattooed neck and a tattooed chest.
Just to let you know, he says...
Maybe he turned up in a Simon Jordan-style roll-up. No one would know, would they?
He said he's got...
Roll neck, sorry, not a roll-up.
He said this bloke says David Beckham's got more tattoos.
Can you think of anybody less likely to smoke roll-ups than Simon Jordan?
No.
He'd have one of those long ones, like the holders they have in some old 20s.
Terry Thomas.
A bit of Terence Rattigan type. Anyway, sorry, Andy.
More spelled M-O-O-R.
Okay, well, that doesn't really help.
Tattoo of the Moors.
Okay.
It's marvellous, isn't it?
Yep.
Yes, I've done that one.
Okay.
Andy Murray, have you seen they're going to put a statue?
Yes, I've done that one. Statue of Andy Murray, yeah.
Yeah, and they've started a mock-up of what it might look like.
Okay, I bet it's a quality item.
It's really quality, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's just basically sort of...
They've just taken a photo of him and made it grey.
You wish that
well done, everybody in the AI department there at the Star for doing that one, yeah. Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank's going to be on Strictly.
Oh, is he?
You heard about this?
No.
Yeah, that's what they're saying. That's what I read the other day. Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank, it says going to swap the tracksuit for the sequins.
I could see him being good at that.
Well, I just remember one game where it was 2-2, Tottenham-Chelsea, and Jimmy fell over his own feet. And there was no VAR then.
It was a penalty.
And he appealed for a penalty for falling over his own feet, and the idiot referee gave it. So we lost 3-2. So I won't be voting for him, put it that way.
And he could get quite cross with colleagues, so you could see him getting quite annoyed.
He used to give them the eyes, didn't he? He used to do that kind of... He'd look, if a ball wasn't played... I mean, I noticed that yesterday with the drop catches. You often get that from bowlers, but bowlers generally try not to show their frustration when a fielder drops a catch. But I think the Indian bowlers had enough yesterday. They were broken by some of the drop catches.
Yeah, some of them. It was funny testing that way. We talked to Dean Wilson about it. I mean, so many catches were dropped, not just by both teams, really. It was strange, but and it could have been very different. India had great chances in that game to win, but they didn't. So
we've gone down lookalike street. Steve, the London cabbie, says, on a recent holiday, my wife announced quite proudly, maybe she was playing her own game of lookalike cricket. She said, don't look now, but Mo Salah is behind you. I gave it a few moments and had a glimpse. So I think you mean Mo Farah.
What did you say?
Mo Salah, she said.
Oh, really?
Yes, yeah. Mo Salah and Mo Farah, you've got to have a system.
You've got to have a system.
Thank you, Steve, for that.
One of the papers today says, fuming Donald Trump dropped a series of F-bombs as the Middle East ceasefire was on off.
Yes,
It wasn't really a series, it was just one, wasn't it? He just did one.
I don't know. I didn't
have you seen it?
I heard one bleeped.
I've heard one. There's just one, that's it.
He gave a speech earlier on today. I mean, rambling doesn't do it justice. Anyway, let's not get into that now.
Infantino, though, who's loves being in the White House. Of course, FIFA not political at all.
No, of course not.
He said that the Club World Cup represented 63 Super Bowls in 1 month.
Is it really? Well, funny enough,
he really is a piece of work.
I brought you news earlier on of Wayne Bridges' hair transplant, which has been really the cornerstone of today's show.
Infantino could do with that. You need a lot more than 4,312. 4,085,
Andy. If you're going to start bandying figures around, get them right. 4,085 hairs that Wayne Bridge had implanted last September to give him the head of hair he now loves. And Rob got in touch in Bristol. He said, I was only 415 off of the Wayne Bridge follicle, I guess. Yeah. It must feel a bit like winning the Club World Cup, I'd expect. So, I suppose it is very, very similar.
Absolutely. Alan Ward wrote to The Sun from Sleaford in Links. He says, I can't believe how quickly horse racing can announce the winner in a photo finish as seen at Royal Ascot.
Yeah.
Take note, Premier League. Why in football can it take several minutes to examine footage on VAR and still produce the wrong result?
Yeah.
You cannot compare a photo finish to
one's just two horses on a line, isn't it?
And the other is all about when the ball leaves the foot and then the line and then somebody else.
You didn't need to explain that, Andy. We'll leave you all the way.
Brilliant,
sports you're really bad at, we're interested in today. This is off the back of a mini golf course.
I wasn't too clever at squash. I only played once. I hated it.
Did you really? Didn't get on with the game? What was it?
Like it. It was too hot. It was so sweaty. It was so claustrophobic.
You played a bit of tennis, didn't you?
I wasn't
You're
great, but it wasn't bad.
So Cliff Richard was one of the club members at your place.
He was.
Yeah, that's right. But you never played with him, did you?
No, I didn't really.
Although you did when he broke down once after you both left the club.
I just drove.
You drove right past him, didn't come to his aid.
I know.
Think what life could have been like for you. Just think that sliding doors moment. If you just thought, "It's Cliff, I better help out," you pulled over and got those jump leads out, Andy, and got Cliff on his way.
Could have been different.
He would have said, I'll never forget that,
The kids
Andy.
were young and they were tired. It was late. And
But you could have played tennis together. You would have said, "Come and stay at my place in the Caribbean." It's
my whole life could have been different.
You come on the road with me. You could have ended up being in the band playing the Spoons or something.
I love it. Talking of Cliff, I love our trails department. You hear their trails using Summer Holiday. I think it's only 1963. Don't worry about it.
All the latest hits.
Tremendous.
So sports you're not very good at off the back of this mini golf course that's offering free games for life for the very worst player they can find. I tried downhill mountain biking on an adventure weekend in the army in the French Alps, says one of the listeners. I knew from the off it wasn't happening. First hill, halfway down, I bottled it. Put on the front brakes, straight over the handlebars, wiped out my best mate. Both ended up in a bush. Gave it up there and then, went for a pint while the other lads finished their session. So, the circumstances in which you discovered you're really bad at a particular sport. We'd love to hear from you. 03717 223344.
TalkSport. Fine, I must do these.
Sorry, go on, okay. TalkSport.com, text 81089, tweet to TSH&J. Go on, what do you want to get off your chest?
You always accused me of taking sport far too seriously, but this is brilliant. These two people who wrote to The Sun about Soccer Aid.
Yes.
They really put out about England losing. England were doing well in Soccer Aid 2025 before keeper Paddy McGuinness started letting in the goals, which led to the world winning 5-4. You think, well, hang on, he's not a goalkeeper, he's Paddy McGuinness. He's a comedian and actor. You know. Why do we let Paddy McGuinness in goal for Soccer Aid?
Oh, blimey.
He's useless. I know it's charity, but let's have a bit of pride.
It's just a bit of fun.
I know. Honestly,
goodness me.
Can't take it.
They're all worse than you, Andy.
That's what I said.
A sport you thought you were good at, but weren't. Me and a mate of mine played a decent level of football, and this posh guy at work kept banging on about how he would beat us at anything. This continued for a while until we couldn't take it anymore. Especially because he would use words at work we didn't understand, and he was very annoying. Okay, it's like class war. So we decided to play him at paddle tennis doubles. To cut a long story short, he and his partner smashed us all over the court. Says Gabby and Benty. Hey! Very good. Yeah, even Benty admitted that Simon Jordan is a very good paddle player.
No, he's very fit. Very.
And he doesn't break sweat. That's what he said.
No.
Not a bead of sweat on him.
Well, you wouldn't with that tan. It'd be very streaky.
It's Paul Hawksbee and Andy Jacobs here on talkSPORT. We're talking transfers next with Ollie Klink. We're here with Toolstation. To get in touch this afternoon, sports you're really bad at, and indeed anything else, talksport.com/H&J. Text to 81089. Tweet to TSH&J. 03717 223344. And we send you once again to look at one of the great lookalikes of all time. It's at TSH&J. An unbelievable Pep. A 6 out of the park. What a lookalike it is from TalkSport listener Will Hall. It's Hawksbee and Jacobs here on TalkSport. afternoon, Paul Hawksbee, Andy Jacobs here on Talk Sport, and stepping in for Alex Crook, who's on holiday at the moment, having a little sunshine break, well earned after a tough season, and he's ringing the very last drop out of his holiday by all accounts. Ollie Klink has kindly stepped in to bring us all the latest transfer news. Good afternoon, Ollie.
Hi guys, yeah, I've renamed him Thomas Crook with how much he's enjoying his package holiday. He's been doing swimming races and playing darts. Yeah, he's having a great time and well deserved, I would say as well.
I think, and again, it'll be on YouTube. You can see the footage of Crookie doing the water aerobics.
Really, honestly, that's terrible, isn't it?
Yeah, he really. I mean, he's not throwing himself into it. Maybe put your back into it, Crookie. For goodness' sake, it's all a bit half-hearted. So anyway, well, we have to stand here and keep up the good work while he's soaking up the sun, Ollie. There's a bit of breaking news on Brian Mbeumo, is that right?
Yeah, we understand that Manchester United are edging closer to the signing of Mbeumo. The talks between the two clubs over a deal that's worth about 60 million. They're progressing now, and actually Manchester United ideally want to confirm Mbeumo before they return for pre-season on July the 7th. He's already agreed personal terms with them, and actually, they've already paid 62.5 million for Matheus Cunha. If they bring Mbeumo in as well, the attention will then turn towards recruiting a number 9 for Ruben Amorim. So all the attention at the moment is at that top end of the pitch for Manchester United. It would be a club record sale for Brentford to, we brought the news yesterday that they're set to appoint Keith Andrews as the replacement for Thomas Frank. So yeah, at the moment, that deal is edging closer for Mbeumo.
Now, staying with Brentford, there's some talk about Christian Norgard today. I mean, I don't know how long he's got left on his contract, but there's some talk of Arsenal offering 11 million euros. That seems pretty well short of what he's worth, but it could have a lot to do with his contract. So what's the story there, Ollie?
Yeah, so they've offered about just over £9.3 million for Norgard. It might be to do with his age as well, Paul, because he's 31, but he is an established Premier League player. He's the Brentford captain. It's thought that he could potentially be a replacement for Thomas Partey if Partey does leave the club. And, it feels like Arsenal adding a bit of depth to their squad when you consider the options they have there. I mean, Zubimendi's already coming in, who can play in that number 6 role. They've got Declan Rice, of course, and Mikel Merino. So it feels like Mikel Arteta, who does like a Premier League proven signing, especially if he's adding depth to his squad. It feels like that kind of deal. Spurs are also interested in signing Norgard. Obviously, he'd be linking back up with his former manager, Thomas Frank. And we understand that Norgard would be open to a move away, but it's unclear at the moment whether Brentford would want a bit more money for him or if they'd even be willing to sell.
It's some of the things that infuriates me about Tottenham, maybe that's changing now, is that they've not brought in those sort of seasoned old players sometimes. I say 31's not old, but compared with the way they tend to recruit, which is experience. 18, 19, 20 experience. Yeah. I mean, when they've done it, Edgar Davids, Noureddin Neighbour, players who made an instant impact and improved other players around them. Okay, yeah, it's kind of dead money when you're signing someone age 31 and giving him a 3-year contract, but sometimes you need those players to bring the kids on, and maybe the new regime and maybe Thomas Frank can sort of see beyond that, because that's been the way they've tended to work in the past.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Paul, that I feel like, especially in that Spurs midfield, it's the kind of player that they do need. There was plenty of times last season. Listen, there were so many injuries, weren't there, of course, for Spurs last season. But I felt that midfield was overrun. And I like Andy, I'm at Brentford quite a lot covering games for talkSPORT. And, I like Norgard on the ball, and he's pretty tough tackling in midfield. I do agree with you that it would be a good addition for Spurs. But it's worth saying that at the moment, Arsenal feel like they are front runners in that race for him.
I just wonder how many players Brentford are prepared. They've lost the manager. They've lost the one of their leading scorers. There's a limit to what they need to do and who they'll sell, I would imagine.
Yeah, you've got to feel a bit for the incoming manager, Keith Andrews, haven't you? Yeah. Who's going into his first managerial job, could be about to lose a player that got them 20 goals last season and the captain in Christian Norgard. And that's two parts of the spine of that Brentford team, if you like, too. So, listen, they're a club that operate like this, that they're a club that do sell players and move them on for a bit of a profit. But with Norgard, it would be a bit stranger, wouldn't it, given the fee that the Arsenal are trying to pay? It's not like Brentford are making mad money on him. So like I say,
they need to be
unclear
careful
at this stage whether they would sell him. Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Now it's been confirmed by Southampton that Kyle Walker-Peters will be a free agent. He won't be short of options. We'll just touch on Spurs briefly because he would be a homegrown player for them, and that's where they have issues at the moment with the Champions League squad, etc. But I'm sure he'll have more options than going back to Tottenham.
Yeah, certainly there will be some clubs interested. He is open, though, to a move back to Tottenham. That's what we understand, of course, where he started. And he was part of that Southampton side who had such a miserable season. But I think if you ask any Southampton fan, they would argue that he was actually one of the better players. He's 28 now. He can play on either side. And actually, it's similar to that Norgard thing, isn't it, Paul, where when you look at some of the injury problems Destiny Udogie had, when you look at the other side of, on right back, I think Kyle Walker-Peters would add a bit of defensive stability as well as some depth to that Spurs squad.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I wouldn't be sorry to see him come back. Darwin Núñez could be part of the sort of great Premier League exodus to Napoli, we understand.
Amazing.
Yeah, he is, we understand, pushing for a move over to Napoli, and why not when he sees how well it's gone for some of the other players who've moved out there. But Liverpool are willing to sell him. They want to try and fund a new attacker. When you look at his record overall for Liverpool, 40 goals in 143 appearances, it's okay. It's not quite the 85 million that they bought him for. They would be looking, though, for more than 59 million for Núñez as they look to get him off their books. So, yeah, I mean, he'd be joining the Italian champions if he does end up going to Napoli, and under Antonio Conte, who does have a knack for getting the best out of his number nines.
Marcus Rashford is interesting. They're him and Barcelona are sort of dancing around each other. They're saying, sort of flattering their eyelashes, aren't they? Well, we'd love him to come to us, say Barca. And he says, I'd love to play with Lamine Yamal. So, I mean, somebody's got to step up, haven't they? What's the next move on this one?
Yeah, the line at the moment is that Barca are exploring a loan move for Marcus Rashford, which doesn't really make it much more concrete. But he's obviously one of Manchester United's highest paid players. He earns in excess of 320,000 a week. So Manchester United realised that finding a club to sign him permanently, the chances of that are still quite slim, just because there aren't many clubs that can afford those wages. So you might see a similar situation to the one with Villa, where Manchester United pay some of those wages and Barca pay some. But I mean, we understand that Hansi Flick likes Rashford because of his versatility. But the interesting thing about this is that he would be in addition to their top target, which is Nico Williams from Athletic Bilbao, who also plays on the left-hand side. So you'd have Rafinha there, you'd have Nico Williams, and then Rashford in addition to that. Wow. So, when you think about the game time that Rashford would probably want in a World Cup year, be competitive, won't it?
He's not going to get a game on the right, is he? Let's be honest.
No, he isn't.
They've got someone there already.
But it's interesting.
Yeah, he's pretty good, isn't he?
He's not bad, yeah.
United are going to have to sell some players, and they're not strong sellers, and they're not very good sellers either. But they're not in a strong position, are they? Because all these players like Garnacho, everybody knows that they don't want them.
Yeah, it's very true, Andy. These are players that have had really, really poor seasons as well. So it's not like there's huge queues for many of these players. I think with Garnacho, when you compare him to the likes of, let's say, Sancho or Anthony or Rashford, Garnacho's maybe paid a little less, so a permanent move for him might be a bit more likely. We know there's interest from Napoli. Chelsea were linked with Garnacho, but their main target is Jamie Gittins, who they've submitted a third bid for 45 million. So if they do get Gittins, who's a left-sided player, it might make a move for Garnacho a bit less likely. But I do take your point, and it's a tricky situation for Manchester United, because they won't want to keep on doing these loan moves, but they might have to, because there aren't many clubs who can afford the wages of those other players.
Yeah. Well, then finally, quickly on a bit of Forest, one that could be out but seems unlikely. Anthony Elanga, Newcastle showing an interest, but they can't come to an agreement on a fee. And the other thing was a couple of ins. Timothy Weah and Samuel Mbangula, they both play for Juve. Mbangula's a Belgian player. We know a bit about Weah, of course, from the USA, and they look like they're on their way into Forest.
And just on Elanga as well. Yeah, they rejected a bid from Newcastle of 45 million for Elanga. We understand they don't have an intention of selling him, but they would want north of 60 million if they do decide to do that. He scored 6 goals and picked up 11 assists. I mean, Newcastle do need to strengthen on that right-hand side. There's a couple of interesting parts to this story as well, because we understand that the outgoing sporting director for Newcastle, Paul Mitchell, back in January, when Newcastle were also linked with Elanga, Mitchell wanted to offer Jacob Murphy to Forest in a part exchange, but Eddie Howe said no. And it ended up, being a brilliant season for Murphy. He was heavily involved in winning the cup and making sure they got Champions League football. But yeah, it's a position Newcastle need to strengthen. It's whether they stretch to 60 million for Elanga. We do know that they're not just set on him, they're exploring other options. Johan Bakayoko from PSV, Dortmund's Karim Adeyemi, and Mo Kudus from West Ham as well, who's got a couple of suitors.
Nice one. All the best, Ollie. Thanks very much.
Thanks very much, guys.
Ollie Klink there of all the latest transfer news. And don't forget all the latest transfer news. You can check out the Transfer Insiders podcast on the talkSPORT app, wherever you get your podcasts. And you can check out the live blog over on talksport.com. We're going to celebrate the life of the great David Sid Lawrence, former England and Gloucestershire cricketer. In Sid's Voice is his autobiography. He died at the weekend with motor neuron disease, and some of the proceeds of the book are going to fight the terrible disease. Dean Wilson worked on the book with Sid, and he'll be joining us in the studio shortly.
It could be a Barcelona dream for Marcus Rashford. As we understand, the Spanish Giants are eyeing a temporary move for the United forward. But Gabby Agbonlahor thinks it's going to be tough for Rashford to even break into that team.
You've got Yamal on that right-hand side. You could have Nico Williams, who looks like he's going to go through on the left. You could probably have Lewandowski down the middle, and behind him Rafinha. Look at Aston Villa. He wasn't guaranteed to start. He only played 10 Premier League games. He got 2 goals and 2 assists in them 10 games, but he wasn't guaranteed to start. So at Barcelona, he definitely won't be.
Liam Delap is off the mark for Chelsea, bagging his first goal in blue against ES Tunis at the Club World Cup. Former Chelsea fullback Scott Minto reckons the new number 9 could help bring out the best from his competition.
He can become that number 1 first of all, then he can have the good season and wrestle his way into the senior squad, and actually he could well make Nicholas Jackson a better player as well, just by that competition.
And after England roared to a second highest ever run chase against India, Double Ashes winner Steve Harmison says the proactivity of Ben Stokes' side paid off.
India will kick themselves thinking, how on earth have we lost that game with the positions we've been in? And even 350 to get on the last day. There was only one team proactive. There was only one team, I thought, trying to win that game. I thought India were trying to we're waiting on mistakes from England.
Paul Hawksbee and Andy Jacobs here on talkSPORT. That, of course, is a Northern Soul anthem, The Night, Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons. We play that because the subject of our conversation next, a big fan of Northern Soul. David Sid Lawrence, former England and Gloucestershire cricketer, died at the weekend, motor neuron disease. And his autobiography is out. It was written with Dean Wilson in Sid's voice, and Dean is with us in the studio. Hi, Dean.
Yeah, afternoon. Good to see you.
You started working, you write about it in the book, you started working on the book before Sid's diagnosis, and it was only a year ago, wasn't it? It was basically 12 months that he lived after his diagnosis.
Yeah, the book ended up taking on a very different tone to the one that we initially were discussing. I mean, he has lived, had lived an incredible life, even without the last year, and he approached me. We'd become friends over the last sort of 10 years or so. I did a story about his bodybuilding back in 2014, and we stayed in touch and kind of became friends from that point on. And then he asked me a couple of years ago whether I'd be interested in doing a book with him, which I was absolutely delighted to say yes. And we just thought, well, we'll dive into everything and we'll tell the full story. But we had lots of time. We could just take our time over it. And of course, over the last year, we discovered, of course, that's the one thing that he didn't have anymore. So it became a real race to try and get it done. But fair play to Sid, he was very determined to get that story out. He wanted to tell people, about his life as a cricketer and as a nightclub owner, as a bodybuilder, all these different things. And then he wanted to tell people what it was like living with MND as the body started to, well, just give up on him, really. You know, it's such a cruel
He talks in the book
disease.
about how distressing that was to him, somebody who had such a great body and so strong.
Yeah, I mean, that was, and he, of course, he told me, we talked a lot. Most of it is in the book, some of it isn't. But that was the thing that it hurt him so much, that the thing that really almost defined him in a way was this big character, this big voice, this big man. He loved his muscles. I mean, you've got to have a bit of an ego to get up on stage, strip down to your G-string and show everyone what you've got. So he loved that, and for that to be ripped away from him, that it really hurt. I mean, there's no two ways to describe it, and but he wanted to tell people exactly how it felt.
He would have been touched, though, wouldn't he, by the outpouring of love over the weekend from so many people, and all the players respecting him as well, which was a real tribute to him, I think.
Yeah, I think so. I think when anyone is faced with their own mortality, you start to think about, what my legacy might be, how are people going to remember me, things like that. And so, yes, he was very proud of what he'd achieved as a athlete and then as a businessman thereafter. For him to get that recognition from the game, for people to show that love and that warmth, really would have meant a huge amount to him. I know it meant a huge amount to his family. I saw them on Monday and just thought that it was really touching and classy the way that the ECB, Gloucestershire County Cricket Club, because they had a minute's silence as well, just the way that the game kind of paid their respects. It was a real salve, I think, for the family, and Sid would have loved it.
He deals with all aspects of his life as a cricketer, including the racism he encountered across the board. I mean, some of
with what we know.
It seems that one of his Gloucester teammates at the time left a sort of banana outside his hotel room, and it wasn't just fans. He got that you reprint a really horrible
letter was awful,
from just a vile letter from someone, and the abuse he used to get from the stands as well, getting boycott out and getting a volley from someone. It's all pretty terrible stuff.
Yeah, but that's the reality. He wanted to tell those stories because that's what happened to him. He's very candid and honest. That he was born in Gloucester in 1964, and so growing up in the 70s and the 80s was as a black kid was tough. And he makes no bones about it. But I think that what he was disappointed with the way that he reacted when that banana was left outside his room, and he went back in and sat on his bed thinking, well, if one of my teammates has done that to me, what does everybody else think? And that really hurt him, and he cried and sort of vowed that he was not going to, well, it's not so much not allow it anymore, but if somebody wanted to come at him that way, they'd have something to answer to, and actually that's what inspired him to change his physique and get into the gym and become a sort of muscular and kind of tougher, certainly on the outside. And that was just his life experience. He had it from, as I say, from occasionally from teammates, but from others as well outside the field of play. He does talk about a couple of games, both at Scarborough actually, where he was racially abused. I think the one that really, he hated the first one, as you mentioned, when he got boycott out early on. I think the fans had really come to watch boycott have a field day, and they were a bit disappointed by that. But actually, it was the incident afterwards in 91 where again he was racially abused, and Darren Gough kind of got in between him and the fan who was abusing him, and he just couldn't understand why, as an England player, he'd just been playing for England a few days earlier, representing these people, with the 3 lions on his chest, and just because he's he's playing against their team, and they felt that he was fair game to be racially abused. That was a tough one.
You mentioned him born in Gloucester, and he was president of the club, and the T20 trophy win meant so much to him.
Yeah, we saw that really moving pictures when he went along, didn't he? And he was given the trophy.
Yeah, I think that's almost become a bit of an iconic image now. Very natural, organic. Wasn't designed in any way, shape, or form. In fact, he talks about how midway through the afternoon he was watching the game, and we had the commentary on the TV in the box, and one of the commentators said, well, Sid Lawrence is here today, the president, very proud, but obviously, with his condition, it's a bit of a long day for him. He might just head home a bit earlier, he might not stay to the end. And he heard this, and he could still talk then, and he said, "I'm not going anywhere. This is my team. I'm going to stay here right to the bitter end."
Brilliant.
And he made sure he was there. And of course, watching them win, he was so proud. And then James Bracey, as I say, just a really wonderful, organic moment. Took the trophy to him, and as I say, he's an emotional guy. He was an emotional guy, Sid. He wore his kind of heart on his sleeve, and it really overwhelmed him. And that image of him in tears with James, happy tears with James Bracey was just a very, very special moment.
The other iconic image from a cricket point of view is him lying on the pitch in New Zealand when his kneecap basically split in half. We were talking to Jeremy Coney on the show on Monday, who was commentating that day, and says it's the worst thing he's ever seen or heard on a cricket pitch.
Anyone that was there, anyone who saw it says that.
And that was kind of effectively the end of his top-level career. He never really came back from that.
Yeah, it was incredibly sad and visceral as well. I think a lot of people kind of felt it because, it was as everyone who was there described, almost like a gunshot going off. It was a loud crack that reverberated around the Basin Reserve. And then he was followed it up with screams of agony because he was in such pain. I talked through that with him, and he obviously told me a bit about the circumstances, what had happened before, the fact that he was coming back from a bit of a side injury and missed the first couple of tests, and so was trying to sort of feel his way back. Also, the fact that his son Buster had just been born at home the previous few months. He's only about 3 months old, and he had to make the call to Gaynor and tell her what had happened, his wife. And then I spoke to a couple of other people, in the process of doing the book. I did speak to a few of his teammates and close friends and other people sort of involved in various stories, and I found out a couple of things, such as, he's such a big man that when they carried him off, the physio's room in the Basin Reserve is quite small, and they couldn't fit him into the physio's room, so they ended up carrying him into the dining room and laying him down on the table in the dining room so that they could start to treat him. He thought that it was, the adrenaline kicked in, and thought that actually he wasn't too bad, even though half his kneecap was up his thigh, and then he tried to get up and go out and play again, and ended up having a bit of a tussle with Derek Pringle, who tried to...
Didn't the doctor say in the end, look, let him stand up and he'll realise he won't be able to, and they'll fall down and he'll know it's bad, and in the end they look, because they were all basically fighting him, weren't they?
Exactly. He's so strong, they couldn't keep him down, and then once he got up, he collapsed in a heap, and then off to hospital he went. But
he does. You talk in the book about the Professional Cricketers Association and some help he got there along the way, even when he was, I think they organised the wheelchair and stuff for him. Also, he said he was so lucky that he injured himself playing for England because of the insurance payout as an England player. He'd been playing for Gloucestershire. Life could have been tough as he sort of financially picked up the pieces.
Yeah, and not only was it fortunate for him, but actually a lot of cricketers do owe him a lot because of that injury and because of the disparity between what you got paid out as an England player versus as a county player. The PCA actually, went to work to make sure that the insurance payouts were bumped up for county pros as well. So, he's made an impact in quite a few different ways. And that money that he managed to get from the insurance, added together with a benefit. He had a benefit year in 1993, which brought in a bit of money. That's what allowed him then to have start his second career as a hospitality entrepreneur.
We just mentioned he was the last person to get Viv Richards out in international cricket.
Yeah.
He was very proud of that, wasn't he?
Yeah, that's
hugely proud of that. I think that was possibly the thing he was most proud of, because Viv played a part in his early years firstly as a inspiration in 1976 when Sid first kind of was captivated by cricket. He went to see the West Indies play England at the Oval, saw Michael Holding bowling, and essentially decided, I want to do that. And then when he was playing for Gloucestershire as a young lad, he had a couple of moments, a couple of run-ins with the law, and Gloucestershire could have ditched him there and then, would have been well within their rights, but they decided to try and give him a bit of motivation, and Viv Richards was that mentor and that guide to set him on the right path.
We spoke to Lindsay Burrow a few weeks ago, Rob Burrow's wife, and she came in and was chatting about a book on their life together. And one of the difficult things must be, and she talked about this, is that the man or the person is still in there. They can't speak anymore. They're physically sort of ravaged by it, but they're still the same person, aren't they? And you watch that happen. Yeah,
and I got the rough end of it as well, because he was so used to telling people what to do and being in control, and as I say, he ran his own business for 30 years. He was onto me. He was telling me, have you done this yet? Have you written that bit yet? Have you got the promotion sorted? He kept, one of the things he kept saying, have you got it sorted with talkSPORT yet? When are you going on talkSPORT? Yeah. He loved talkSPORT. Oh, he listened to talkSPORT, and it's a great shame that he's not able to listen now, because I've got so many messages, because he could still send messages using his eye gazing software. He could still send messages on WhatsApp. So yeah, he was telling those around him, family and friends who were helping him out, he was in control. He was still very much the same Sid. When are you going on talkSPORT? What's happening with that? Anyway, if he's listening up there,
absolutely.
Here he is.
Absolutely. We, because knowing the book was coming out, I said to our guys, I know Sid can't come in, but is it possible to speak to him when Dean comes in? And you said it's far too advanced. I didn't know that, and he was far too advanced for that. But because he maybe wanted to have some input on the chat, he did a little voice note for us, and this was before he died. Obviously before he died, but you know what I mean. We did it. Yeah, we did it recently, and we thought we would still play it to you. It was just Sid, sort of in his own words, saying what writing the book meant to him.
Was very emotional looking back on your struggle as a black kid growing up in England in the 70s with immigrant parents who no longer here, and my cricket career and my struggles and life after. Very proud of the book. It was hard, but we got it done, and family can pass it down, and we can raise money from the book for the Cricketers Trust and M&D, and a big thanks to Ian Wilson. Not possible without him. He got me as a person and told my story how I wanted.
Yeah, we should point out some of the money from the book is going to Cricketers Trust and motor neuron disease research, isn't it?
Yeah, he was thinking of others right up until the end. That's very much a legacy of his as well. He really did look out for other people, and he knew there was no cure for him, but if he can raise some money, some awareness that can help people down the line, that's what he wanted to do. So yeah, money from the sale of every copy will go to MNDA and the Cricketers Trust, who two charities do fantastic work and really supported him. And as you can hear there from his message, he said, Dean Wilson, he got me as a person and told the story the way I wanted it. Well, I can assure you, the book is the way he wanted it.
In Sid's Voice, The Extraordinary Life of Dave Lawrence with Dean Wilson is published by Fairfield Books, and as Dean was saying, lots of the money from the book going to charity as well. Dean's going to stick around. We're going to have a quick chat about that test yesterday and what we learned about Bazball 2.0. It's Paul Hawksbee and Andy Jacobs here on talkSPORT with Tool Station. Next stop, Tool Station. afternoon, Paul Hawksbee, Andy Jacobs here on talkSPORT. Been chatting to Dean Wilson about his book with David Sid Lawrence in Sid's Voice, which is out in hardback now. Dean, before we let you go, just a couple of minutes on that test yesterday, and we were all sitting there on Friday railing it. What you're doing, Ben? Winning the toss and having a bowl. I
was saying you have to reframe the way you look at Test cricket. Everything you thought you knew about Test cricket goes out the window with this team.
Completely. They are rewriting the rules and just expanding what's possible. I mean, that's the beauty of sport, isn't it? We always want to try and see something we've never seen before.
Yeah.
It just so happens that this team seems to be doing it every other week. I just thought that actually the way they played was far more kind of measured and controlled than we've seen from them over the last few years. I thought that they've shown how much they've learnt from their experiences. I thought that they actually identified that Headingley, good pitch, incredibly fast scoring outfield, an India attack that I actually thought would be a little bit better. Of course, we all know how good Jasprit Bumrah is. I thought Siraj and Precedent would be a little bit better, but they just really took India down with great skill, great composure, and in the end it wasn't even a nail biter. I mean, they kind of cruised home 5 wickets, and
I got a bit nervous when Stokes got out.
Yeah,
that dismissal by Ben Stokes is just so much about the way he plays cricket, because he tried to reverse sweep Jadeja about 5-6 times. He could have got out, but he still kept doing it, and he got out. Well done.
Yeah,
he won't change.
He was asked, Stokes, wasn't he, about Jofra and whether he'd be back for the second test. He's played a bit of red ball cricket for Sussex, and I had Michael Vaughan say maybe give him another game for Sussex. Why rush him back? Do we necessarily need to? We want him right for the Ashes, but by the same token, we want him playing top level red ball cricket to be ready for that and for the rest of this series. So where do you stand on that, Dean? Bring him back for the second
Lords
test?
Would be good to bring him back.
That'd be the third test, won't it? Yeah.
Look, I would say if he feels ready, and the medics say, yeah, he's fine, then play him. And I think there's no better environment or captain for him to play under than Ben and with England. I think, even if they don't want to over bowl him and just kind of ease him in a little bit, I think Ben will look after him.
Yeah,
I think he'd manage him as required. I mean, Ben would bowl the overs that Jofra couldn't, for example. But I think getting back into that dressing room, back into that environment. He wants to play. He's worked so hard.
Yeah,
4 years I think it's been since he played red ball cricket. Yes, he's played a bit of T20 and white ball stuff, but he wants to recreate those moments that we saw in 2019, and he wants to be a part. He wants to play for Ben as well. That's the other thing.
Yeah,
Ben is such a kind of inspirational character. He's really looked after all his players. I'd say get him in and let's get on with it.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Good to see you, Dean. We wish you all the very best for the book.
Thank you, pleasure.
In Sid's Voice, The Extraordinary Life of Dave Lawrence, published by Fairfield Books, out in hardback, with some of the proceeds going to MNDA and the Cricketers Trust. It's Paul Hawksbee and Andy Jacobs here on talkSPORT.
It could be a Barcelona dream for Marcus Rashford. As we understand, the Spanish Giants are eyeing a temporary move for the United forward. But Gabby Agbonlahor thinks it's going to be tough for Rashford to even break into that team.
You've got Yamal on that right-hand side. You could have Nico Williams, who looks like he's going to go through on the left. You could probably have Lewandowski down the middle, and behind him Rafinha. Look at Aston Villa. He wasn't guaranteed to start. He only played 10 Premier League games. He got 2 goals and 2 assists in them 10 games, but he wasn't guaranteed to start. So Barcelona he definitely won't be.
Liam Delap is off the mark for Chelsea, bagging his first goal in blue against ES Tunis at the Club World Cup. Former Chelsea fullback Scott Minter reckons the new number 9 could help bring out the best from his competition.
He can become that number 1 first of all, then he can have the good season and wrestle his way into the senior squad, and actually he could well make Nicholas Jackson a better player as well, just by that competition.
Meanwhile, Adam Lallana has announced his retirement from football. The midfielder ends his career where it started, at Southampton. After rejoining last season, he won the Champions League and Premier League during his time at Liverpool. Elsewhere, Crystal Palace's place in Europe may have been boosted by Lyon's relegation from the French top flight. It's over financial issues with the club owned by now former Palace shareholder John Textor. Lyon are appealing, and Simon Jordan's questioned the credibility of the sanction.
What we normally see when a club's in absolute disarray is people don't get paid. I'm not hearing that about Lyon. I'm not hearing the players are not being paid and all this sort of stuff. So clearly they're meeting some sort of obligations, because we see it in this country. We see Sheffield Wednesday not paying their wages. We see Reading. We see other people with leagues.
That's a fair point.
And all of a sudden they get sanctioned because they're not able to meet the obligations. And that gives you... These guys have got debt. And they seem to be able to pay their way.
And after England roared to a second highest ever run chase against India, Double Ashes winner Steve Harmison says the proactivity of Ben Stokes' side paid off.
India will kick themselves thinking, how on earth have we lost that game with the positions we've been in? And even 350 to get on the last day. There was only one team proactive. There was only one team, I thought, trying to win that game. I thought India were trying to were waiting on mistakes from England.
Good afternoon, Paul Hawksbee, Andy Jacobs here on talkSPORT, and Tim Vickery's going to join us. We've got some interesting bits of transfer news. There's a bit stuff about Rodrigo and Madrid maybe prepared to let him go. Arsenal showed a bit of
wages these players are on. People often ask, why don't these top players come to the Premier League? But when they're clubs like Real Madrid, it is difficult, because they're on an absolute fortune.
Under 21's in action tonight, and will the Vultures be circling Lyon to try and pick off the best of their players? And we'll find out a bit more about QPR's new manager as well from Julien Laurent, French football expert, who joins us a little bit later. We're going to hear from Sir Gareth Southgate now. Should we do that ahead of our chat? Because there is a reason for that. Gareth been knighted by Prince William after being recognised in the New Year's honours. He spoke to the media afterwards at Windsor Castle.
I have to say I was more emotional than I thought I might be, and I think partly to be able to bring the parents with me as well, and my wife, who at different stages of my life have been incredible supports. So it's an amazing honour. Grateful to the help of so many people for being here, and it was a very special day. What I learned doing the job is it's important that people on the outside respect the space inside, and I'm in a position where anything I say is going to cause problems for the people in there, so best that I stay out of the way, let them get on with it. They're a brilliant group of players and staff to work with, and I wouldn't be here without everything they contributed and helped me with, so I hope they can go the next step now.
As diplomatic as ever.
Absolutely. It's a shame he not still doing the job, I think. But
we'll come on to that. His old skipper, Palace friend Jeff Thomas joins us now. Hey, Jeff.
Afternoon, guys.
There he is, Sir. You won't be calling him Sir Gareth, I take it.
He's had a great career, hasn't he? On and off the pitch. His management career is for England's been only surpassed by one guy. So it's a great honour that he's achieved.
It's more than just his record, though. It's what he made playing for England feel like, and that the club feel and the whole thing that we had eluded so many managers, and looks at touch to be eluding this one. I hope I'm wrong. But
it's very early days.
It is, but you know.
Yeah, you're right, because I think he brought the players closer to the fans, which previous managers have taken the personalities away from them players, you know, just to try and isolate them and keep them in a bubble. And I think Gareth opened up their personalities so they could voice their opinions themselves as well. So I think that helped all round the training camp for sure.
He's kind of hinted at the fact that he may not come back into football, necessarily into football management. He may go and try something completely different. It'd be interesting to see what he does do next.
He's such an intelligent guy, you know, he always has been. You know, some people said he was too intelligent to be a footballer when he was in his teens. But he's proven that he can do things on and off the pitch. He's gone into industry now and doing talks with big corporations, and I think he's really enjoying it.
Now, we've been speaking to you for a long time, Jeff. Well, probably for 20 years, because we remember chatting to you before your first Tour de France all those years ago, when you just had recovered from leukemia and wanted to do something and support the people that had helped you and other people that could be facing the disease. And you're getting back on the bike one more time, aren't you?
Yeah, it is that number 20, 20 years. We've achieved so much together, myself, fellow patients who've battled through. And patients, it's really important that patients get a voice, and the numerous doctors that work in this field really work together very closely. And with the charity Cure Leukemia, we've been able to bring a product together that they all work together, so they find answers more efficiently, quickly, and this is saving people's lives. So I really want to shout about the work that the doctors, nurses, the professors, the scientists have done over the last 20 years, and how we can improve things even now. Where one person dying from blood cancer is too many. So I think we're very much aware that answers are just around the corner, and I think we need to keep our foot on the accelerator pedal and make sure that the answers are found quickly.
So survival rates increased considerably in the 22 years since you were diagnosed, Jeff?
Sure. I mean, my particular illness, chronic myeloid leukemia, was more or less a death sentence. You could add from 3 years to 3 months at most once you were diagnosed, if you didn't find a match to have a stem cell transplant. And I found out then only 20% of the population find a match suitable to go through that process. I was lucky. And now chronic myeloid leukemia, they find that a chromosome that went crazy, that Philadelphia chromosome, and they found a drug that isolates that chromosome and stops the cancer growing. And now if you're diagnosed with CML, you don't even have to have time off work. Wow. You have a tablet a day and it keeps it at bay. And the understanding from that product is really starting to spread into other areas of leukemia, and using a similar sort of science. Sorry.
We've got you, Jeff. Yeah, we can see you all good.
Yeah, all good.
Yeah. I mean, that is amazing. That is amazing.
No,
it's something.
Just the understanding of that science is really accelerating new products through, and Cure Leukemia with this infrastructure that we set up really helps that really fast track everything forward.
So you do all 21 stages you'll be doing of the tour once again. How's the training going?
Are you king of the mountains?
I'm definitely not king of the mountains. I mean, I didn't even think I would have a chance of doing this, but there was a guy, Mark Gillette, who did the challenge 2 years ago, who's the chief medical officer for the Premier League, and he got wind of me really keen to do celebrate 20 years. And he offered me opportunity of taking on, it's only just past the trial itself. It's arthrosamid. It's a product that it's like a gel that is injected into your knees.
Right.
And my knees have been shot from football, really. And even getting on a bike, it started to become painful. But I found since having this injection late December, I've been able to get on the bike and steadily put some hours in on the bike, and I'm confident that I can, give it a good go. 21 days is a big challenge for anybody, but I'm just desperate to play a part.
If you go to the Tour 21, that's the Tour in words, 21numbers.co.uk. All the details are there. You can make a donation. And to hear Jeff say you've gone from something that was a death sentence in 3 months to taking a tablet is pretty remarkable. You got to an FA Cup final with Palace, Jeff. We haven't spoken to you since they got over the line. You must have been chuffed. I take it you were there that day.
Yeah, I was delighted to be there as well. I was guest of the chairman, Steve Parish, and it was amazing. I'm a Manchester lad, and I'm on the blue side of Manchester. As a kid, I was brought up a City fan, but I was desperate for Crystal Palace to lift the trophy because we were so close in 1990, and just to watch the team experience the adulation from the fans, and watch the fans as well. So many Crystal Palace fans just in tears because they've achieved something that they never thought they could do, and generations before them never had a chance of seeing Crystal Palace get anywhere near such accolade. So I just hope that they can keep the squad together and kick on, really.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it, finally? It's just...
it looks like the manager's going to stay, which is a big factor.
That's a big factor, but there's Gay and there's others there that are being talked about. I mean, you kind of sense that...
they got about 5 or 6 players other teams would cover, which would suggest if they stay there, they could have a very good season.
Yeah, and the recruitment has been pretty good recently, isn't it?
Yeah, and Europe is a big thing as well.
Yeah.
We finished third in the top flight with the 1990 FA Cup side, and we lost players because we weren't allowed to play in Europe. The likes of Ian Wright, Mark Bright, Andy Gray, nucleus of the side just left, and the attraction of Europe is massive for the players like Crystal Palace. To be the first players playing in Palace colours is going to be a bit special.
Yeah. Well, best of luck with the tour again, Jeff. We'll catch up with you soon. All the best.
Cheers, thank you.
There we are. It's Jeff Thomas there, former Palace, an England player, Palace skipper. And the Tour 21, that's the Tour in words, 21numbers.co.uk. All the details of Jeff doing the Tour de France one more time. And you can click through and make a donation and say to hear about the huge difference the money and the research has made in the 22 years since he was diagnosed is quite amazing. It's Paul Hawksbee, Andy Jacobs here on talkSPORT, and Tim Vickery will be joining us. All manner of stuff to discuss. They're going mad in Brazil for the Club World Cup.
Great. Open top bus ride because they beat Chelsea.
So bitter.
Fantastic.
Anyway, we're here with Tool Station Ready Help at over 580 stations nationwide. Next stop, Tool Station. to talk South American football. Bless you, Andy. If I say the word South American football, Andy sneezes.
It's true.
Because they are really enjoying the Club World Cup in that part of the world. Less so where Andy lives in Chiswick. Good afternoon, Tim Vickery, our South American correspondent.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. How are you doing? That's a very nice summer knit you've got on there, Paul. Can you put one aside for me when I come over next month?
Lovely. It's got it is very Vickery, this look, isn't it?
It's very mod.
They're loving the Club World Cup there, and as you said, the crowds are really embracing it. They're giving it the atmosphere, aren't they?
Well, I think they've saved the whole goddamn thing, because you take them away, and this could easily be falling flat on its face. Even for the TV images, you've got to be able to cut to the crowd and have people who are reinforcing the thing that this matters. If not, it just comes across as an exhibition game. So they've turned up in numbers. It means everything to them. And there are plenty of problems with this tournament, aren't there? Lots of problems. It has to win its credibility. It has to overcome the ridiculous temperatures that we're subjecting the players to, and also these interruptions for adverse weather conditions. That's a real problem, and it could have been awful yesterday, where had Bayern Munich beaten Benfica. Then Boca Juniors would have known exactly how many goals they needed to beat Auckland by. Obviously, that didn't happen.
Terrible, aren't they? God.
Not least because Boca are too terrible to beat Auckland City.
I know.
But that's a real question for the integrity of the tournament. A real problem for the World Cup next year if this kind of thing carries on. But the people who have really got this thing going are the South American fans, and they're inspiring the players on the pitch. And so far, Boca are out a little bit humiliated, but we've got 3 South American sides through to the next round, and the other 2 trying to book their spot later on today.
But, they made a big thing out of beating Chelsea. But, for me, it wasn't a fair fight. It really highlights what's wrong with this tournament. You've got one team in the middle of their cycle, used to playing in those conditions. You've got another team flogged at the end of the European season, playing on all fronts and winning trophies. It wasn't surprising that towards, the first hour it was quite an even game. But after that...
Aren't your players a lot better than their players,
I don't think so, not necessarily, I just think...
Andy, stay. Can I give you a public health warning at this point? Stay on your side of the Atlantic, because if I try and timidly make these points on my side of the Atlantic, they're just a tirade of xenophobic abuse that I receive for this. And this is all the Europeans making excuses because they're losing. And
it'd be very interesting next summer. It could favour Ancelotti and Brazil. This, if he can get it together.
Andy wants Botafogo and others to play on a cold, windy night in Stoke and see how they get. And he ran. I'm not joking, Tim. He does.
It's true.
Fly them over to Stoke.
No, if the situation had been reversed, if they'd been playing at the Bridge on a cold night in January, and they were in the end of their season, and we were in the middle, what might happen? Do you think? It's one of those.
The full might of your £1 billion squad would come.
Barometers of quality are neither extreme heat nor the potteries. Can we agree on that?
Yes, very much so.
Let's talk about some transfers. Igor Jesus off to Forest. The new Didier Drogba, potentially.
I've been pushing that one. I don't know if you've watched him in the Club World Cup.
A little bit, yeah.
He's a one-man forward line in the way that Drogba used to be. Because Botafogo, they've been on the back foot for quite a lot, because they were up against Paris Saint-Germain and Atletico Madrid, and they managed to get out of that group on goal difference ahead of Atletico Madrid, and he just does everything. He can hold the ball up. So if you're under the cosh, you play the ball up to him and he can hold it. He's quick and mobile. He can work the channels. So you want to play the ball behind the defensive line, he'll run onto that. He can drop deep and combine. You get service into the penalty box and he will score goals, either foot or in the air. And he defends like a madman as well. So he is just a complete package. He's a wonderful, wonderful player, wow. I think. It's a great backstory because he played a little bit in Brazil, but not for a fashionable team and not without doing a lot. And he'd ended up in the Arab Emirates. And Botafogo, whose scouting is immaculate, he was on their radar screen. They waited until his contract was over there. They brought him back last July as an unknown. By September, he's playing for Brazil. It's an extraordinary story, this one. And my only worry for him going to Forest now is that he will be flogged out, because he's been playing so much football, and so much football where he's been doing so much. He's like a one-man forward line. So I wonder if Forest might do well just to give him a little rest before plunging him in. But I think they've got a terrific player.
Well, they got Chris Richarlison, haven't they?
Excuse me, yes, they have.
The other thing was Rodrigo. There's been a few stories suggesting that Real Madrid may let him go. What are they saying over there, Tim?
Yes, and it seems that the interest from Arsenal is real, and I think this could be great for both. And Rodrigo's a little bit a prisoner of his own versatility, a victim of his own versatility. I don't know if you saw. I think it was Bellingham said in the season that he's regarded as maybe the most skillful, but also the one who has to sacrifice himself most. Yeah, and I think bringing Mbappe into that team, I think it unbalanced something that they had a sweet thing going, and it hasn't quite worked. And so I think he probably needs to go to somewhere where he's higher up the totem pole. And the great thing about him is you can play him anywhere across the forward line. You can play him either wing. You can play him inside as well. You can play him as a false nine if you like. And he's so good, he will give you something everywhere he plays. So obviously, I don't don the colours of the lot from there. But I think this will be a good move both for him and the club and the Premier League, should it happen.
Neymar is sticking around at Santos. Marcelo Teixeira, the Santos president, I thought was a bit low key in his response to that. He said it is an historic and remarkable day for Brazilian football, a gift for the fans of Santos FC. Our idol, our boy, the Prince, with our number 10
the most overrated footballer of all time.
So he sounds keen.
Yeah, well, they've had him for 6 months. And they've got absolutely diddly out of him, nothing, because he's been unfit all of the time. There was a chance he was going to play the Club World Cup, especially for Fluminense, and that fell through. So he's now signed on for another 6 months. His dad, remember, they've been paying him a lot of money. His dad said, he's his business manager. His dad said, "Yeah, Neymar's come back to Santos, and it was just to recover. And if he got onto the field, hallelujah." No, it's like, what have you been paying him for? If hallelujah was getting him onto the field, what have you been paying him for 6 months? Really? So the fans just were ecstatic when he came back. That patience has been a little bit tried, not least by the fact that you see him photoed in so many off-the-field scenarios. And the test now, this is a huge 6 months coming up for him, because I imagine one of the big things about coming back was getting back in the Brazil squad for 2026. Ancelotti will have him back, but it won't be as easy as it would have been under some of the previous coaches. Right. He's going to have to prove his usefulness, I think. So this is a very, very important 6 months. If this Neymar story is going to have a chapter, all about redemption in the 2026 World Cup, we're going to have to see something, I think, in the next few months.
It won't.
Just a quick one. A little bit of time left. Estevao, you say he's talked himself into trouble, the Chelsea youngster. Yes, what's he done?
Well, he's still the Palmeiras youngster.
Oh, Palmeiras.
How excited he is, isn't it?
Well, yeah, they're in the Club World Cup, and this is to quote Mr. Barry White, this is their first, their last, their everything. It's all about winning the Club World Cup. And Estevao, he did pick up a couple of those bizarrely named Man of the Match awards, but he's been good, but he hasn't been great. And he just gave an interview after the last game, saying, it's hard to focus on this, because I'm already thinking of Europe. Oh, wow. I'm already thinking of Chelsea. He has transgressed the unwritten rule of tournaments, which is there is nothing beyond the tournament. Humanity only exists until this tournament is over. So a lot of Palmeiras fans are saying, drop him. We don't want to know him no more.
Wow.
So, this is the first little...
Yeah, he can come a bit sooner,
This is the first little crisis, little crisis in his career. Maybe it might be in everyone's best interests to have him transferred to Chelsea during the competition. Oh, yeah. But obviously that can't happen.
No, of course. What if he did? Yeah, anything works with Infantino.
Yeah, it's going to take him time. He's very young to be coming to London and all that.
Of course.
Very
Tim, we're out of time. We'll catch up with you next week.
Look forward to it. Cheers.
Tim Vickery with the very latest from South America. Live football tonight on talkSPORT 2. England under-21s versus Netherlands under-21s in the under-21 European Championship. It's a big game for England after that.
I thought it was a 5 o'clock kickoff.
It's 5 o'clock.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't say it wasn't, did I?
No,
I said
it's
on
evening.
talkSPORT
Oh,
2.
I suppose it is
Well, it's
evening.
late afternoon.
No, you're right.
Where does the evening start?
No, that's right.
03717.
5 o'clock.
Okay, good. Darren Ambrose is your co-commentator for this one, former England under-21 midfielder, and we'll get his take on the game in a few moments' time. It could be a Barcelona dream for Marcus Rashford. As we understand, the Spanish Giants are eyeing a temporary move for the United forward. But Gabby Agbonlahor thinks it's going to be tough for Rashford to even break into that team.
You've got Yamal on that right-hand side. You could have Nico Williams, who looks like he's going to go through on the left. You could probably have Lewandowski down the middle, and behind him Rafinha. Look at Aston Villa. He wasn't guaranteed to start. He only played 10 Premier League games. He got 2 goals and 2 assists in them 10 games, but he wasn't guaranteed to start. So Barcelona, he definitely won't be.
Liam Delap is off the mark for Chelsea, bagging his first goal in blue against ES Tunis at the Club World Cup. Former Chelsea fullback Scott Minto reckons the new number 9 could help bring out the best from his competition.
He can become that number 1 first of all, then he can have the good season and wrestle his way into the senior squad, and actually he could well make Nicholas Jackson a better player as well, just by that competition.
And after England roared to a second highest ever run chase against India, Double Ashes winner Steve Harmison says the proactivity of Ben Stokes' side paid off.
India will kick themselves thinking, how on earth have we lost that game with the positions we've been in? And even 350 to get on the last day. There was only one team proactive. There was only one team, I thought, trying to win that game. I thought India were trying to we're waiting on mistakes from England.
Just before we talk under-21s, the reunion of the century starts next week, and we're giving you a chance to win a pair of tickets for Oasis in Manchester on July the 19th. Yes, you heard that right. Oasis Live 25 is completely sold out, but talkSPORT can still get you in. But that's not all. Alongside the tickets, we'll put you up for a night in a hotel and put $5,000 in your pocket. Completely tax-free. Listen up right now for everything you need to know and how to enter.
Alright, kid. You have to be over 18 to enter in the UK, excluding Northern Ireland. For a chance to win a pair of tickets to the most electrifying rock and roll reunion of the century, a hotel stay, and $5,000 spending money, all you got to do is text the word Oasis to 83338 by Monday the 7th of July at 11 p.m. and you'll be entered into the draw to go supersonic this summer. Sorted. Right, here's all the legal stuff. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You've got to have the bill payer's permission or post your name and number to Oasis Prize Draw, PO Box 3190, Colchester, CO2 8GP, to arrive by 5 p.m. on the 10th of July. This is a talkSPORT limited promotion run on talkSPORT, Talk and Virgin Radio UK stations. Full T's and C's at talksport.com.
It's Paul Hawksbee, Andy Jacobs here on talkSPORT, and we have a game of football for you at 5 o'clock on talkSPORT 2 tonight. It's the semi-final of the European Under-21 Championship. England are defending the trophy. They won in 2023. It's been a bit of a topsy-turvy
for a dodgy group stage. Who saw that game result against Spain coming? I didn't.
Yeah, that's right. Anyway, joining us now is your co-commentator alongside Joe Shannon for the game tonight, former England Under-21 midfielder, Darren Ambrose. Hi, Darren.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. How are we?
Yeah, not too bad. It has been interesting. You know, they beat the Czechs, didn't they? And then they lost to Germany, had the draw with Slovenia. It's made sort of hard work of it. But, I mean, the conditions, I think, have played into it. We've been talking a lot about that in the Club World Cup.
Yeah.
Harvey Elliott said it was, in some of the, I think it was the 0-0 draw with Slovenia, it was almost impossible to play in, he said.
Yeah, it did look hard, difficult conditions. The sun was blaring down on the pitch. So, I mean, towards the back end of the second half, the shade had taken over, so it seemed a little bit easier. But look, I agree with Andy. I didn't see that result coming. I've covered the whole tournament so far, and the group stage was underwhelming to be positive, to be honest. And I know got the result against Czechia, but could have easily gone 2 or 3 goals down in the first 15 minutes. And then the Slovenia game was just poor. The conditions were poor, and the Germany game was just it was one of those. Germany got a couple of goals and just sat back and was confident they couldn't break them down, and I felt Spain were the big favourites going into the quarterfinals, and England just produced one of their best performances I've seen for a long time and got the 3-1 win. But again, could have gone a little bit different. First 2 minutes, I think Diego Lopez had a header over the bar, and then the penalty shout, which in my opinion should have stood. I thought it was a penalty on Cresswell, handball, but it was a fantastic performance after that. England just took over.
I don't know if you had a look at the Dutch. They beat Portugal in the quarter-final. What do you think England are up against tonight?
A very good side, actually. I think it was the only team that won every game, 10 games in qualifying. It's been a little bit underwhelming for them in their group stage. Drew 2-2 to Finland, lost 2-1 to Denmark, and then the win against Ukraine 2-0 took them through. But they've got some good players. That obviously Maatsen will know. I'll talk about the players, Aston Villa, Rav van der Berg, we know from Middlesbrough, Milian Manhoff was Stoke, and the main goal scoring threat really, Noah Ohio didn't play in the quarter final. He came on. They'll remember him. I think Hull City fans will remember him getting a couple of goals. But they're a real good side. They only conceded 3 in qualifying as well, so they had the best defensive record. This is no walk-up. I heard Stuart Pearce earlier saying England are favourites. I'm not too sure. I think looking at the both teams this tournament, it's going to be very evenly matched, and whoever can start the best, in my opinion, will go on and win this.
They've got Van Bommel missing tonight, haven't they? He's sent off. Yeah, I mean, it would be too much of a coincidence. But he's going to be a big miss for them, isn't he?
Yeah, he certainly is. As you said, they managed to get through that game having Van Bommel sent off, but they've not got a particularly good record in terms of red cards. I think they've conceded 4 red cards in their last 7 games, I believe. So it's one of those that their disciplinary record is obviously not ideal, and it's something that Lee Carsley should be looking at. And not saying the dark arts of football, but look, this is tournament football. This is semi-final. Whatever you can do to get through, if they get a red card as early as they did against in the quarterfinals, then I can see England going on to win this.
Who's stood out for you from an England point of view in this tournament so far, Darren?
In terms of the attacking side of things, I think Amari Hutchinson has looked relatively good when he's played. I think the main one for me, though, is Tino Livramento. I think he's been outstanding. I think if I was to pick a player from this side that I think will be the first one to move up to the senior squad, I think it would be him. He played the first couple of games at left back, which is not his natural position, but he looked outstanding. And you think of the shortage of left backs we do have in the country. I think if he stuck to that position, he would get a call up. He's moved over to his rightful right side as well recently. Just everything good seems to go through him, and he sets up a lot of chances. He's marauding down either side, whatever he plays in. Pops up in the deep lying midfield place as well, in that inverted fullback. He's really, really impressed me. Probably alongside Cresswell and Kwanzaa, which shows you what kind of tournament we've had at the moment. The two centre-halves have looked really, really solid.
Tuchel won't pick him though until Kyle Walker's at his 50th birthday. Honestly, he should have been in the last squad. He clearly should have been in the last squad.
Look, like I said, and he's really impressed me, and he looks a great kid as well. He looks like someone who's willing to learn and listen, and just one of those characters that you want around the place. And he's been playing out of position at left back, and you haven't heard a peep out of him, and he seems to really enjoyed it, and he got in a bit of a scuffle against Spain at the end, but rightfully so. That I think the Spanish winger really went for him at the end.
And what about Lee Carsley? I mean, the thing is, we got used to Gareth, who was kind of a very assured media performer, and we've had others who are the same, but I mean, look, Lee is clearly a very good coach, but he does
He's great at this level, I think.
He looks a bit rabbit in the headlights in front of the media, and that may cost him the big job if he gets another opportunity. But as a coach, he does a solid job, doesn't he?
I think he's comfortable at this level. I really do. I agree with Andy. I think he's comfortable. And you know what? It was one of those, when he did have those 6 games in charge of the full squad, and he said he didn't want the job. Sometimes you think, I know you're just saying that, but I actually believed him. I just felt it was too big for him. He knew it. He didn't want to take that leap in terms of the national team, and he seems comfortable. He does a really good job, and particularly when Sir Gareth Southgate was in charge, he brought through a lot of young players, and it was kind of that natural progression. And I think he wants to have that relationship with Thomas Tuchel as well, because there are 1 or 2 here that could definitely make that step up.
And just finally, as a former Palace player and a Tottenham fan, there's a lot of talk about Eze for Spurs. I mean, as a Tottenham fan like you, I would be absolutely chuffed if they could pull it off. I understand there was an opportunity last year, but him and his people decided to spend another year and look at their options at the end of this season. But what do you make of that, Darren?
I would absolutely love it. Look, if my association with Palace, there's no one I would want to see Eze leave Crystal Palace other than to go to Tottenham. I think it would be an outstanding signing. You know, it would be a statement signing, I think, for Spurs. I think last season is obviously one of his best seasons. He's such a natural talent. He's one of these that should be in the England team, first team, all the time, and he's kind of on and off the bench, but he's a maverick player. You know what? With Crystal Palace, they had Wilfried Zaha, then they had Elise and Eze, and now they've got Eze, and he's the best player outside the top 4 by a mile, and I would absolutely love to see him in a Spurs shirt.
Yeah. Does he want to drop down a level? That's the question.
Well, you know, you finished 17th of the team. You've got to be fighting relegation in your new club.
Hey, we've got Champions League. Don't worry about
it. True. Yeah, he wouldn't mind that. Cheers, Darren. We'll hear from you later.
Cheers, guys.
Darren Ambrose alongside Joe Shannon for commentary of England under-21s versus Netherlands under-21s. Semi-final tonight at 5 o'clock kickoff for that one on talkSPORT 2, and I'm sure the boys on Drive will keep you in touch with that. As you're aware by now, I'm sure, because you would have heard from our next guest, popped up to explain exactly what had gone on in the sports bar last night when the news broke that Lyon had been demoted to Ligue 2.
Incredible.
It was a real shock, although it may be not as much to the ownership of Lyon, as our next guest will briefly explain, because I'm sure you're aware of the story by now. We're going to sort of look at some of the players that may well be picked off, and also the appeals process and the timeline for it, because, you know, the friend here with our good friends at Tool Station, standing behind every single tradesperson in Britain. Next stop, Tool Station. Paul Hawksbee and Ollie Jacobs here on talkSPORT. We end today talking about Lyon and the story that broke yesterday evening that they're going to be demoted to Ligue 2 in France. A real shocker. Simon Jordan, I believe, was chatting about it a little bit earlier on, and our next guest got a mention. I don't know in which context. I'm sure it was.
Hope it's friendly.
Sure, it was highly flattering knowing Simon. This is what he had to say.
Debt. Why a whole raft of clubs being sanctioned for debt?
I don't know, but those appear to be the rules in France.
I assume that the rules in France are more strident and more stringent. So for Julian to be going off at the mouth about what's happening in England, which he doesn't have any visibility of, he should park it up, and someone should explain exactly what the governance is around the French authorities sanctioning somebody that doesn't appear to have been sanctioned by UEFA. And I would expect UEFA's domestic or policies around financial regulations to be quite strident, because we've seen it. We've seen Real Madrid have to sell their training ground to comply with it. We've seen other clubs being sanctioned under UEFA regulations, including Man City. So what is it they're being sanctioned for? And then you and I can have a strident conversation about whether John Textor is a devil incarnate.
Afternoon, Julian.
Hello, guys.
Yeah, is he having a pop at you there? Were you saying? Well, was it a bit of whataboutery from your point of view? Is that what he's claiming?
Yeah, I'm not so sure. I think Simon Jordan should pack it up to start with, because he knows nothing about French football or how French football works and the regulation in French football to start with. And then maybe once he's learned what happens in French football, then he can call me and we can discuss it, or he can invite me on his show. The only thing I said yesterday was that John Textor, since arriving at Lyon, taking over Jean-Michel Aulas, the historic owner and president of that club, has just made a mess of it. And I'm not saying that the decision by the DNCG last night to relegate his team, his club, Lyon, in the second division was right or wrong. The fact is Lyon have huge debts that have massively increased since John Textor took over the club. And the main reason why they've been relegated is because they can't handle that debt. They have no plans to reduce it. And the French DNCG, which is the French Financial Fair Play, which is the regulators that look at all the accounts for all the French professional clubs, look at those accounts and said, I'm sorry, this is not good enough, and what you are planning or the plan that you're putting forward today is just not good enough. So we've got no other option than to relegate you like we warned you we would do back in November. And since November, John Textor has done nothing to change the situation.
They sold some players, including Saïd Benrahma, but did they not sell enough? Were there other players that should have gone?
What about that?
Well, Cherky's gone, but is that too late to have made this cut-off?
So Cherky made this because he was sold before June 30th. So he made this year's account, if you want. I mean, John Textor, just to give you a bit of an indication, I don't know why Simon Jordan, maybe they're related together. I mean, they look quite similar, to be fair. Maybe they've got the same business knowledge. I don't know if Simon Jordan is as unsuccessful as John Textor, but John Textor, for example, in his plan to the DNCG, was saying, like, I'm going to sell some Botafogo player to Nottingham Forest, and I'm going to give that money to Lyon. But this is not, even Simon Jordan knows, this is not how things work in football. Botafogo cannot sell players to Nottingham Forest and then transfer that money on the Lyon account to make sure that the NCG are happy. It doesn't work like this. So John Textor needs another plan. Maybe Simon Jordan could work with John Textor to sort Lyon out of this mess.
I think you may be appearing on White and Jordan before too long, Jules. Let's look at some of the other players. I imagine the vultures will circle. Ainsley Maitland-Niles is still there, and why would players who are playing in Liga suddenly think, well, I want a relegation clause? If you're playing for Lyon, you probably wouldn't have one. But so how's this going to work out?
Yeah, you're right. I think if this is confirmed, because they can appeal, and they will appeal. They've got a few layers of appeal they can trigger. So they might be okay, and they might be able to stay up. But if they're not, you're right. I think the players that don't want to be in Ligue 2, and there will be a lot in that squad, from Maitland-Niles, as you mentioned, to Corentin Tolisso, World Cup winner, for example, they won't be there. When you think about Malik Fofana, who right now is, after the sale of Cherky, Fofana is the player with the most value, the highest value in the Lyon squad, with a lot of Premier League clubs, almost half of the Premier League, wanting to sign him, to recruit him. Suddenly, if you're Lyon, you're not in a good position, powerful position anymore, because everybody knows you need money. So instead of maybe trying to get somebody to offer £50 million, let's say, for Malik Fofana, who's a really, really promising young player, suddenly clubs are going to come to you and say, listen, you need money urgently? Okay, here is £20 million, and that's all you're going to get from us.
Yeah.
So even from that point of view, it's a disaster for Lyon.
The timeline of the appeal, Jules, finally, how are they going to do this? Because there's so much riding on it. Ligue 1 fixtures, Ligue 2 fixtures to organise. The team coming
Europa League.
Team coming up instead of them. Europa League. Players' contracts saying, well, am I going to be playing in this league or not? I need to make a move. So they haven't got a lot of time to sort this out, have they?
No, you're right. It's a great question. They've got 7 days to lodge their appeal, which they will do imminently now. And then they will have a longer period of time to prepare for another plan to put in front of the appeal commission. The first one is the one from the DNCG, which is very unlikely they would go against what the DNCG has just mentioned last night, but then they could go to the federation and they could go finally to like a labor tribunal. But they would have, it will all be down to what they offer or what they can do, whether a new investor can come in, whether they will sell more players quickly, whether John Textor can, with some of the money that he got from selling his shares in Crystal Palace, can recycle that money through the Eagles group. But again, that's not going to be easy. Even Simon Jordan knows this. So it'd be very interesting. But you're right, it's an absolute mess. Reims, who were relegated and would stay up if the Lyon relegation is confirmed, are getting ready now to maybe change their plans in case they can stay in Ligue 1 next season. So it will impact so many teams, so many people working at football clubs, so many players, but also, as you said, UEFA and the Europa League draw that is going to come in August. All of that needs to be sorted out. So it will be quick, but they will still give them enough time to prepare another plan to present to the appeal.
And finally, is this unprecedented, or is there any kind of situation like this? Is there precedent for this that they can lean on to say, well, look, we had this once before with another French club, but they got a reprieve, or not?
The only one really that we have similar is the one from Bordeaux really recently, although they went down from Ligue 1 to Ligue 2 already on the pitch football-wise, and then got relegated from the second division to the fourth division because their accounts and their money was just shambolic. And maybe Gerard Lopez is also a friend of Simon Jordan and he wants to defend him. I don't know. Again, we can discuss that. But Bordeaux went down because their owner and the ownership was shambolic and kept making wrong decision after wrong decision, which is a bit the same for John Textor. It's not as bad. And again, I think Lyon probably could get away with it through appeal and stay up. But even if they do, guys, the situation is pretty dire for them. So they need to proper look into it. Otherwise, they're going to be in the same place next season again.
Okay, well, we'll pass on your best wishes to Simon, and I'll say you'll be getting a call from his producer, and that'll be an interesting chat. So for now, though, Jules, all the best. We'll catch up with you soon. Take care.
Thank you.
Julian Laurent there, yeah, definitely. I'm going to be on Jim and Simon's show tomorrow. Wow, it's a mad. So it doesn't sound good for them, does it? Does not sound good for Lyon at all.
No, not at all. No,
wow, wait.
Sounds a right mess.
Well, that's us. We'll be back tomorrow with a birthday spread. You'll join myself and Charlie for that. Michael Vaughan amongst our guests, still basking in the glory of that England Test victory yesterday. We'll be chatting to him, the former England skipper, amongst other things. And as we said, live football on talkSPORT 2 tonight. The under-21s taking on the Netherlands, England, but taking on the Netherlands. But of course, here on talkSPORT, to build up to that, keep an eye on it and talk all manner of other big football stories and more of the day. Andy Goldstein and Darren Bent will drive. We'll see you tomorrow.